It's still up here. Faker looks like he's going to get a free plate in the bottom lane this time. Did this in game 2, where he was just able to sneak down into an open lane and take a plate right before they go away. So, as you mentioned, the Corki will scale eventually. You do kind of have to go Hex Drinker, which will delay your build by a lot. I think it's 1350 exactly,
Nice.
but either way, it's going to take a while before you even get one mythic, let alone, 2-3 items, so where you're really pumping the damage.
Yeah, you're really just kind of a package button in the early parts of this game. And that's fine if you end up getting the first Drake like they did, so you're not feeling like you're into 2-stack Drakes into an Infernal or something like that, or worse, a Mountain in this case for their composition. But Zeus here just really controlling this matchup here in sides. And Valdez, I mean, this game is still winnable for Gen G, like, don't get me wrong, but I'm not ready to put all my eggs in the Pays basket right now, let's just say, in terms of what his performances have looked like tonight.
Maybe you could put it in the Chovy peanut basket. I think that's kind of where the bread is buttered right now for the side of Gen G. Just in terms of like who's got leads and stuff, so maybe they can set something up on that side. You mentioned this side lane here. Doran essentially just wave clear duty, trying to not get poked out by Zeus.
Yeah.
I think that's
Pays with Shiv can lane pretty safely here and pick up farm. One of the cool things about Zeri with Shiv is just that she's never really going to get picked. She's never really vulnerable. She's not putting on any pressure in this game either, but is going to need, Pays will need his teammates to help do that for him to potentially have a Zeri moment here in this game and start to be relevant. He will eventually become relevant, obviously, later on, just by natural, getting caught by these feathers, you gotta be careful with that, but naturally will, of course, be relevant later on in this game. And if Gen G can get to that point and T1 can't lock him down, he could be big even though the early game wasn't his best.
All right, let's see how this goes. Chovy just picked up Ludens. Could be a big difference maker in this fight. Keria looking for the angle from the left side. They're going to get in onto the Rel. Actually, the light just gets 100 to 0, but that's the support. As now Doran coming in from behind. Zeus trying to make a big play here onto Zeri and will take him out. And now it's 5v3 in favor of T1. They have the damage. They take out the Renekton, and Chovy is alone versus like 8,000 people. It's a double kill now for Guma as T1 will take down the fight.
Oh man, T1, Zeus saving the play. This guy's coming up big in playoffs, and Doran looked like he was going to just control that fight. He got the first dash, but decides to dash back towards his teammates because he sees the Gnar engage, can't actually lock down the backline, so Guma gets out through that choke point. The Renekton not going to make an impact on that turnaround. So Faker's here on the flank as well, trying to layer in some damage, and they're trying to put Gen G essentially on a clock here on this hold of the aggro. And we talked about what's the only follow-up you really have to the Sejuani ult? It's the Rakan. Keria hits that perfectly. Doran's on the flank here. Knows how to kite to this choke point. He gets the first dash. Then when Zeus comes in, he dashes back towards Pays to try to maybe turn this and win this fight. But there's too much damage in this Gnar. Like, he's actually straight up a secondary AD carry to the Guma Yusi Xayah, who's already pretty big, pretty damaging. And if you don't lock down those carries, the longer fight isn't going to be yours. Even though Chovy was set up to potentially win that later fight, it was just a numbers game he couldn't do.
Yeah, very close one, but T1 now will skirt into the lead. They're looking to take down this first Chemtech Drake. Looks like Gen G have had enough fighting for now, although Peanut is hanging around here, so it's Delight. Just a Mega Cone denial, I suppose. But yeah, this is going to get very interesting now. T1, they have a 4-0 into Xayah. Guma was already fed, and now he is Omega fed. And this just gives more time for your Corki to get online. It's going to be pretty huge in that way.
But we did see Owner having his a mouse issue. He was looking at somebody saying something, so it looked like this was communicated very quickly. And since it's a peripheral issue, it should be solved very quickly. So fortunate for us. Thank you guys for your patience.
Those sneaky mice.
Zeus was the one who had the issue, apparent seems. This game is kind of off the rails. This whole series has been off the rails, Valdez. And T1 just have some special clutch power, I feel like, this playoffs where they've just shown up in a big way, and they have definitely, I think, continued to surprise us.
Getting the big zoom in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it looks good. Can tell that he is using a wireless mouse.
Yeah.
I don't do that myself.
I've been converted. I think that the latency is good enough now, and I can't go back to having a cord attached to the back of my mouse. It's hard for me.
Makes sense. Maybe I'll change.
Yeah, one day I'd say give it a try. Once you do it for like a month, you're just like, whoa. It's like you're not switching to a cordless phone or something. You know, it's like, wait, why would I have a cord on this?
I can just bring it anywhere. I don't know why you'd bring your mouse into, I don't know, wherever you want to bring it, but I suppose you can do that if it doesn't have a wire on it.
If you told Wolf from 10 years ago that Wolf is now in 2023 using a wireless mouse, he would never believe. He'd be like, what? That's sacrilege. But, you know.
Going to the Army in 2 days.
Yeah. The best choice, it says there, to come watch this game.
Yeah. They always say that.
Yeah.
That is the meta.
That's the way that you do it. And he is, looks like, off duty. I don't know what that rank is or what it means, but he has 3 lines right there on that patch. And
triple mid. Wow.
Nah, he's probably a big deal, actually. So, congrats to those who serve and those who have to here, of course, in compulsory military service in Korea. And Doran's going to get a turret here. Looks like that's going to go over. Herald getting dropped here after Outer. They're going to try to heavily commit to get that inner gold, and they're set up for this.
Yeah. Definitely can just try to siege this. The Sedge ult comes out, but the follow-up from the Maokai. Guma just going to cleanse, just to be safe. Ult here from Carrier, going to catch Jovi, and again, he's just going to be burst down as the Rel goes in just to die. As, man, that is a very nice setup here from T1, and they're just catching Gen G bit by bit. As now Doran, yeah, he's pushing, but Faker can just TP in.
Yeah, and because Doran didn't have teleport, there was nothing he could have done about this play. This could just be an early inhib if they want to commit to it. Freak is going to get woken up by this. If they actually do kill it post or pre-20, he's gonna actually lose it. But look, it's going to be a ton of permanent map control basically for T1.
They killed it pre-20, Wolf.
Yeah, they killed it pre-20. They killed it pre-19, man.
Maybe because it's the bottom lane.
It's bot, and it also, like, yeah, Pays is going to be able to freely farm minions here, but he was also kind of Zeri, and he could do it in mid. But look at the lack of turrets here. I mean, T1 grab all these turrets. There's no turret outer in mid. There's no bot at all. And this is the call to go on to the Azir. As, like, basically, Carrier, he sees the angle, and he calls it out. The flash is so beautiful. And I mean, this is just from the regular perspective here now after Carrier's play, and then Zeus just goes in here and pulls Peanut basically max range. There's nothing Pays can do. He's sitting on a shiv, and then Faker teleports topside to deal with Doran, who couldn't have made an impact if he wanted to without teleport. And just coming out of the pause with a vengeance was this whole squad. And
yeah, this is what happens when you go for the Luden's Azir sometimes, is that you're just going to get engaged on, and if you don't have Crown, so much of the carry potential on the side of Gen G is just gone. Is Guma going to pull back some feathers? Man, they are really ripping into them now as the Maokai ultimate is going to come out, but easy feather storm now for Guma, who is immensely fed, and now the flank is going to come in. Gen G, they keep trying to opt into this fight, and they're just getting killed over and over, as now T1 is 4v1. Jovi is alone. He's just going to be taken out eventually. Down he will go. Owner takes it, and Pays wasn't even there. I mean, it should be Baron for T1.
It's like the game Lemmings, you know? If you're just going to trickle in one by one into T1, it's not going to be a happy time. It's going to be a lot of gold going into T1. It's a 6,000 gold lead. It's going to be Baron. And Pays is still just trying to get that second item. You're not going to carry this one on Shiv, unfortunately, and without a team, because his team is constantly trying to fight to deny T1 these small objectives when they're so far behind. This one is pretty much a wash, or most one-sided game yet in this series, it looks like here. I mean, look at the siege setup here for T1. Carrier decides, okay, they set up the feathers, I'm going to follow up. Like, Guma sets up Carrier, then Carrier just smashes a home run here. Peanut is dead on arrival. Ends up getting caught by the Sejuani ult, but he was going to die no matter what. And then Chovy shows up super late here to hit nobody and just go down.
I guess he got that 900 gold shutdown. No, not
he did also commit teleport for that play as well, so...
Doran, I don't think you win against Guma. He's just going to TP away. As maybe if you root him down, no, he's just going to get out here.
So no TPs now for Gen G.
Yeah, I feel like this game is just a wash. Like, T1 got a slight lead, and then Gen G are like, we can fight them 4v5 under our turret, right? And now it's like the floor was lava. They've just sunk into the lava. T1 have pushed them in. And yeah, I mean, again, Chovy has some items, but he is alone at this point in time.
If it's the lava game, I think Genji tripped and broke the coffee table.
Yeah.
This one,
they tipped over the bureau.
Yeah.
Alm's gonna be angry again.
The thing is, like, the momentum has shifted so massively after that last game where Genji got caught on the Baron play, and I mean, now you're getting crushed.
Oh boy. Well, he's gonna avoid the Blade Caller route and get away, but that's a, okay, engage comes in from Genji. They finally pull the trigger. This is pretty nice, but Faker is gonna get away, and it's Guma, who did not get gauged upon, of course. He is the Xayah, gets flashed on, presses his R button, and T1 looks like they should stop this first game, although Paze is gonna get the one kill. Guma eats a hit from the Soldier as now maybe they went a bit too far.
Teleport,
Chovy
though, from Faker.
Quite strong with a flash over the divide, and it will be enough. T1 playing with fire, but they do get there in the end. They wipe Genji, and they will take down this game number 3.
And that 18.5-minute inhibitor's down, so there's super minions on the Nexus. It just absolutely destroyed Genji in this one. And oh man, I don't know if you can mentally recover from 2 losses like that. A narrow loss, obviously, in the second game, but this one, I mean, this was something else. And T1, the crowd is going wild. Guma with the outplays there with Zeus there in that final moment, but Keria on this recon, his follow-up to the Sejuani engages were so good. And I feel like this series is just about T1 being at the right place at the right time, great shot calling, decisive plays on objectives, and who cares about the draft? The draft feels like it doesn't even matter in these cases, but having the Gnar there was another threat, another bit of damage output. Faker, super mobile on the Corki, they almost caught him. He pops that lifeline, zooms out, and the fight is done, it's over. And T1C in that instant, we can win the game right now. Do they walk away? Do they just back out and say, oh, great trade up for us, let's maybe back off and take some objectives? No, that's what T1 does, and when Faker is on the rift with them, they know exactly how far they could push these advantages. And yeah, it looked scary for a moment until it didn't. And Guma does 20,000 damage in this game with the early lead he was gifted by Paze and Delight.
Yeah, absolutely. That 2v2 diff in the bottom side definitely coming to fruition in a big way in this one. And we talked about all the win conditions, everything you had to do for both teams. Genji, they're getting wins in drafts, and they are dropping the ball when it comes to the gameplay. T1 certainly outplaying them here, especially in game number 3. And now they're on match point. You win one more game as T1, and after getting 5th in the regular season, they might go to Worlds. They might go to the LCK Finals. That might just happen. But guys, we are done here for this game number 3. We'll have a break and then the space.
천천히. 미드 한명 오면
걸렸다.
해봐. 나 안 죽을 것 같아.
이거 시작 걸어봐.
안 죽었어.
제리 막혀줄게.
일로 안 줘.
앞에 때려봐.
야, 세주 와봐. 이쪽.
줄게. 튀어.
바텀라인 끝낼만해. 바텀라인 오면. 테리 높여. 초식 있어.
가볼게.
아래.
나 왔고.
나 태삼
야, 나안 줬다.
돌려 있어도.
제리 노플.
와대줘.
아지르만 잡아. 이 없어.
노플이야.
바텀.
나이스.
빼자.
소리.
미안하다.
잘했어. 아니야, 너 많이 쐈어.
야, 너 진짜 맛있게 죽었어.
나이스.
개멀리네.
잘했어.
대장정 올릴게. 나 어시 주면 안 돼. 어시 올릴게 그러면.
아, 빨리 끝내.
나 받은 피해랑 올릴게.
나이스.
losing. Either way I'm there. Got an attitude, I'm off the roof up in the air. This round I make it count, yeah, I'm talking right now. Feel like the comeback kid, got no time to spare. Double up score, 22-2-4. You know I win a lot, gotta win one more. On a hot street, never gets old. Soda with the ace and my team went gold. Why am I playing with time as it's ticking away? It's ticking away, away. I'm asking why. I'll give it one more try. I don't know why, but I keep coming back every time. I want it more than my life. I don't know why, but it feels so right. Why am I playing with time as it's ticking away? It's ticking away.
요즘 파티예요 아주. 31일 만에 선발 근적 메이커가 돌아왔습니다. 안에서 관문 돌파.
Hey, welcome back to the space, everyone. As T1 takes us to the first match point of this series, and guys, it feels like the momentum has shifted. I don't see the Genji that I saw in Game 1, and I don't see the T1 that I saw in Game 1 either.
No, the early game was a lot, and then T1 won. So I'm still a little bit baffled. I don't think that this was unlike, for example, Game 1, where I think there was a very clear draft edge for Genji, or Game 2, where I think there was a pretty decent, maybe not as much, but a draft edge for the opposing side. It just kind of felt like this game was all over the place, and I don't think drafts had too much to do with it, because I see Maokai, I see Renekton Azir, and I'm like, this can work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good example for T1 how they win. It's like, as you mentioned it, like you said in a pre-show, like T1 kind of have to make the hectic and chaotic and a lot of all the action. It's gonna be better for T1. It's gonna be increase the percentage they take the fight over Genji. Like, I think that's what actually happened in this game, and that's how they got ahead on the early game. Like, besides the owner, you know. So overall, I really like the idea still having counter pick on top side, and making sure on bot lane, stabilize the bot lane matchup at the same time Carrier has an engaged champion, so it's a really high impact. And build matchup, it's pretty good for Faker as well.
I agree, and I'm happy to see T1's draft priorities shifting to what makes them stronger, actually, after Game 1, as you said. But guys, we're going to take you on a journey, the journey of the early game. There's going to be a lot of replays, there's going to be a lot of action, but this is where everything was decided, I feel.
Yeah, and is it good, is it bad? I'll let you draw your own conclusions, but it's definitely not clean, as we are going to take a look at all the shenanigans happening early on, because you see all this and you're like, oh man, owner. Rough game.
Yeah.
What's happening? You're contesting with a Corki there. Can't really do that. Early kill for Zeri, and you're like, this game's done.
That's what we
then the
thought.
third death, you're like, yeah, he gets the dragon, but surely this is over, Huni. Surely.
Owner starting 0-3 that's not.
It was bait. It was bait. It was No, it was not calculated.
I mean, it's just the, like I'll say, the carrier Guma plays incredibly well on the bottom. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like you don't really pick Zyra Khan into Zarya, like even like was it the first game, like that's why they pick Alistar Rakan, like because Zyra Khan can't really hit the double E, but I think they exactly know the matchup as well, and also this map, also this is like so much extension.
Yeah, I respectfully think that this is a lot of disrespect on the side of Genji.
Yes,
That's-
I disrespectfully think this. Why are you invading? You're Maokai. If you're a you know a Vi or a Poppy, I'm like maybe you're Maokai. That's not how you push your leads. And Peanut, I think, got a little bit excited overexcited for that one. As yeah, I think the Zarya experiment. We're gonna have to change the priority because Pace is just getting absolutely dunked on in lane. This is the second time now, and I think in the previous game it was more so to do with how the resources were allocated because they were playing really heavily towards Genji. So I think that one was a little bit more excusable. This time around, though, you can't give over 2 kills like that in the 2v2.
I mean, I had the feeling that during the previous series as well, his impact was not as strong as what we've seen from Pace. That's what I mean. I'm not saying that he's underperforming, but a bit more transparent than the usual also.
I mean, it was never about lane, but he wouldn't like absolutely get blasted the way he has been in this series together with the light.
Yeah, I mean, I think they definitely do have to about like the Zarya priority, especially the Guma has been performing really well. We even said it, like the Zarya has been really high priority at the same time, really high win rate in these playoff seasons. So they gotta do with it.
I think to follow up on the owner death, as you were saying, I think they were not as impactful because it didn't lean quite too much on the side of Genji, but also T1 grabbing leads slowly and managing to focus on the right objectives and the right setup is what made the difference, I think, in the mid-game.
I think Peanut's invade helped a lot with that one as well. Here, though, like the setup is amazing. What I really like from T1 is that they turned this into a 5v5. I actually think that a 3v3 you can still win. Zaze is targeting there as well on Pace, so impactful.
Yeah, I mean, managing rage with the Mega Nards, the tipping as a Mega Nard is so impactful, and Guma played perfectly well here with the even carrier as well. Like, it's just like, this is the first actually 5v5 happen, and after this, I don't think there was any chance to Genji to come back, because it was a huge win for T1.
And what kind of disappoints me for Genji is that we have actually seen you can draft into Zarya. Like, trying to handshake it with Zeri, if they tried one more time, I'll be really disappointed. You can draft a lot of things that have been very successful into the pick. I think Ziggs is the obvious one. Obviously, don't really want to go for that when you have Maokai, Zeri, and Renekton. But you can tailor your drafts in a way that you can actually abuse the fact that Zarya into longer range carries can't play the game.
No.
And right now, we're just not seeing that at all. And as long as you keep handshaking, clearly today, Keria and Guma way ahead of you.
The champion is too strong and it does too much action in the game. We'll see in a bit if Gumayushi actually gets player of the game. We have it now? Let's announce it now then. Is it going to be in the bot lane? Yes, but on the side of the support, of course.
I really wanted to vote for Guma, but it had to be Keria, right? Even though I think Guma played an exceptional game, Keria's impact across the map and how he set up a lot of these kills was too good.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Guma played like a perfect game, but the problem is like that there was a carrier that who played also perfect game, and then you're playing support, so you can impact the map a little bit more. So it's a little unfair that it's just a little job differences, but a carrier basically had more job.
You can even go for Zeus here. I think Zeus is a perfectly acceptable vote because he did salvage a lot of the fights. This to me was the main difference maker.
100%. I mean, it's just like all the fight. It's just so clean. Like, I mean, this is like, that's what I said. I think the T1 plays so incredible well. And besides the early game of the messy, the situational, I think it's a really satisfying bot.
I would have liked the Zeus photo. I think it would have been cool.
But honestly, to follow up on
but it was bot lane.
We've been building for the past series as well, Keria, Zeus, and the entirety of T1. You can see the confidence for the past 2 series. You can see that they feel stronger than they were, and it shows in game, it shows in plays, and it actually shows in the momentum that I think they grabbed here. Do you think it can go to 5 games? Or is it just going to be a wrap? Like,
well, I don't know. Maybe it's just 3-1 for T1, and then we get Genji in the lower bracket, and then they beat KT 3-1, and they beat... Like, it's just spring all over again. It's the I don't know. I think that if Genji change their drafts, I really do think that they need to kind of pivot. But drafts isn't going to change Peanut invading.
No, that's the thing.
or them dying in a 2v2, right? They also need to step up the game.
I think it's just more so, especially bottom, I think. Especially Pace until like they shown the weaknesses in the last series against HLE, even though they 3-0. But this is the day that they have to step up. This is not a great day for them. So I think around the BP, I think they probably have to pick other champion or ban out the great champ of the good mountain carrier. There's a urgent action right now.
We'll see if Gen.G can go back to being the methodical team that they were during the entirety of summer, or if T1 will be the first LCK team to qualify for Worlds. Casters, back to you.
Thank you, Lore, Huni, and Chronicler, for that wonderful breakdown. As yes, we will have to see some big change up in the bottom lane. That's definitely the words on the lips of many of us after watching, especially that game number 3, but over the last 2 or 3 days or so. So obviously a lot of work to be done here for Gen.G. They don't look quite like themselves, but still a lot of credit to T1, who have really stepped up to the plate, not only against KT, but up against Gen.G, the underdogs in both matchups, but now they're just coming up on top once again. Some things never change, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if they send Gen.G down to losers and KT beat Hanwha, which is the expectation right now, then we'll have a rematch in the lower bracket finals as well in Daejeon between those two teams.
Does that mean that Gen.G just wins in the final?
I mean, it's going according to script.
Is time a loop? Like
it's going according to script. So, yeah. I mean, looking at this series right now, I think Gen.G's drafting overall has been fine. It's the gameplay. I mean, we've actually liked it in general, more than we've liked T1's, but the gameplay is what needs to change. And there's the ban on the Xayah. Not going to be playing it here in this 4th game. Like this adaptation, this means the Kai'Sa ban will come through. They were just so confident playing the Xayah into the Kai'Sa that they just, every time the Xayah was open, they were like, we're just going to leave Kai'Sa for you and see if you pick it up. They won't give Gen.G that opportunity this time. And Paze, we'll see what he decides to play here, because obviously the Aphelios, we did see earlier on in the series, he's very good at that. It's a very comfortable pick for him. The Zeri, though, even though it's still available here, I'm a little bit concerned about. Now, the Poppy ban towards Owner, I think, is very warranted. He and Peanut are our best Poppy players. It would be shocking if that was ever left through in any of these drafts. Let's see what the final ban is going to be. The Sejuani, they weren't able to get Permafrost synergy with, but one with Despite It in the last game. May just be left once again.
Yeah, maybe. The Gragas comes through, so they say, hey, we want to play Jax. Will you let us? The Renekton's available, the Sejuani's available.
It's a trap here for Gen.G where it's like, if you pick the Sejuani, you won't get the Jax with it. If you pick the Jax, then you're not going to get the Sejuani with it, and they can play something else with Sejuani. And I think you just go Maokai, actually, as Gen.G again, and Peanut doesn't make the overextension we saw from him last game. If you can keep your confidence, I think it's a pretty easy call. That's what they will do. But this does mean that Sejuani Jax is going to go over to T1, and this is, for the first time, the strongest point that Zayas has been given. Like, he's been given some good matchups here. He obviously got the counter matchup with the Gragas last time, but now he gets Jax Sejuani, what T1 wanted to get, but this time we're able to successfully get.
This is like what we were setting up the entire time, like in the pre-show, what we've been talking about, the top lane pressure for Zeus. The guy is obviously really in form right now. Play around your top laner. And finally, seems like they will be given an opportunity to, as a lot of groans from the Korean caster side as Zeri is locked in, and understandably so, right? Yes, they take away the Xayah, but the Zeri hasn't looked clean either.
Now, T1, they could just grab a Azir for Faker here, or they could try to get Sivir now, because I think Sivir is probably the champ you want the most here with your Jax Sejuani setup. But if you don't get it here, then it's going to get banned by Gen.G, you have to imagine, and the 80 carry pool is going to get thinned out. Not really a great angle for example, the Draven here for T1. Definitely feels very risky. And they're just going to give Faker the safety of having this Azir, which he has been very good at throughout this series, as was mentioned. Ended up getting POG in that second game just because he was able to stave off so much of Chobi's pressure. They'll take away the Talia that he played into in game 1. Then let's see if that Sivir gets banned. They take away the Lulu here first.
Yeah, the Lulu has been really impressive against Alistar lanes, especially with a relatively weak laning AD carry like Zeri, so I think that's fine. But yeah, I wouldn't mind the Sivir ban either. They could try to target the support pool further just because there is so much left available, including that Rakan that they kind of just got boomed by. So let's see where their thoughts do lie.
Gonna have to agree with you there. I mean, you have, as Genji here, a counter pick. Like, the Rumble is still available, and you have Rumble Maokai, so maybe that's the angle they want to take, but are we going to trust Doran on this pick right now is the real question. That's something that's yet to be seen, as the Draven will actually be banned over the Sivir, interestingly. And as much as I don't necessarily love the Braum here, Valdez, it is going to save that final pick here for Guma and keep it a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, I mean, Braum can at least soak the Maokai ultimate, you know, and stand there, put the door up. It's not, you know, we don't really like the Braum in current state, but it's okay.
The GP, I actually trust more than I'll ever trust the Rumble here in this draft. It's kind of a Doran exclusive. You can see the win rate is quite high with such a small sample size of games. Those are almost exclusively Dorans as well. And he has a lot of comfort on this pick, and they're going to put Chovy on the Yone here. And this is going to be do or die. It's time to clutch it out, Genji. This is, you're going either to push us to silver scrapes with a draft like this with decisive plays. Or we're just playing Vayne. Okay, I thought they were just going to play Sivir and he was just teasing us.
Okay, well.
And every time we haven't liked the T1 draft, Valdez, they've taken the W.
I'm done not liking
I'm just going to say it's okay.
So.
I'm just going to say it's okay. We're just going to say it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So Genji, scaling, they have Gangplank Zeri, okay? Late game, insane for them. Now, obviously, we'll have to deal with some Jack side laning, which can be a problem. And it's Braum with the Vayne, so it's hard to snowball this lane, but it's into Alistar early game, so if there's a bit of an accident down there for Paige, like, this is a volatile matchup where the Vayne can get ahead. We saw it last time it was played by aiming. If you just start getting ahead on this Vayne, the mid game becomes so difficult to play out. Then you do eventually get to a point where later in the game, you're going to have a lot of issues against the composition of Genji. But let's see how this one plays out. For Genji, I like what they put together here. And Chovy's Yone is a pick you can always trust since that famous game against BDD, which has led to a lot of Chovy fan signs and all that. And I do think that if played correctly through the mid game, it's a better draft. But that has just not stopped T1 in this series. It just has not stopped them in this series.
Yeah.
Vayne is a very situational champion. Very feast or famine, as we like to say here.
Yeah, I think it's an okay spot. There could be a lot of stray things that come your way with the GP if the game goes late enough, but who knows? I mean, Guma was able to carry in Game 3. Maybe he can go ahead and do it again on the Vayne. We'll just have to wait and see as this GP comes out, the Yone as well. A lot of risks taken in this draft. Let's hop into the Rift for game number 4.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
All right, off we go.
And this is a game, Valdez, where you look at the players playing, the champions they're playing, and you could argue perhaps Delight, you know, and Karya aren't really a huge part of this, and Owner as well, but like Zeus on Jax, Faker on Azir, Doran on Gangplank, Chovy on Yone, Pays on Zeri, which besides this series has overall been one of his best and most famous picks. He did end up getting Spring Finals MVP for a reason. It feels like it's the all-star lineup. Like, this game looks like it's a fan fiction of everything you could ask for. Guma pulls out the Vayne in R5, and I think we're going to have a fiery one here that may end this series. We will have to wait and see, but it just feels like this series continues to deliver in terms of breaking expectations, and
yeah.
I'm here for it.
I feel like both teams kind of have similar drafts where we have this triple threat comp that has been so strong nowadays because, like, we can say what we want about the Vayne, but, like, if they go all in onto the cleansed Vayne that has a Braum with exhaust right in front of her, then Faker's going to kill you, or Zeus is going to kill you, right? Like, that's why triple threat works a lot, so similarly, on the side of Genji, if you go all in to kill Peas, who's got cleanse, and an Alistar in front of him, then maybe Doran's going to just barrel your whole team, or Jovi's going to hit a huge Yone ultimate. So I think it is a very similar feel in this one. And as we have seen, the drafts can be what they may. T1 have just been playing the better League of Legends in the last 2 games at least. And I've been wanting to see this Chovy Yone for quite a while. I think this is one of his best picks, as you can see by his win rate, obviously. He has really just boomed some teams with this pick in the past, and I'm glad that he pulls it out here in an extremely important moment to essentially give it all. It's not Sejuani, but Maokai alongside of it. And I think it can have a lot of power in this draft.
Yeah. And the same comes true of Doran's Gangplank. He's 4-0 on the pick, so he has not lost a game with us yet. It was when he pulled the Gangplank out, like earlier in the season, towards the end of round 1, where we kind of collectively decided he's back. You know,
yeah.
There was a moment where he had a pop-off game on GP, and we were all like, okay, well, Doran looks like if he's comfortable, he's on, and then he continued to have a great season. Like the first few weeks of LCK, we were all very concerned about Doran's individual performances despite Gen.G picking up the wins. Felt like they were winning despite him, not because of him. And then that changed. But when he plays the GP, he puts a lot of pressure on the lane. He passively generates income. He becomes a scaling threat. His barrel chains have been really good. He's one of our resident Korean GPs here. And I think that if you look at what the composition of T1's is trying to do, it's going to be hard to punish this GP in team fights with the Vayne. The damage isn't going to necessarily be there. If you're trying to get on top of him as Jax, like I think that's your better bet. If he gets caught by, for example, a Sejuani ultimate, that could be how he dies first. Yeah. Like there are ways, but if he's just left to his own devices, he's going to do a lot, and Vayne can't really get to him.
Yeah, absolutely. As we've seen this combo at least now twice. You get the engage from the Alistair, the Braum just goes right in front. Guma's totally fine. Here's Owner. Wave not really in a good spot, so it's actually pushing away from Zeus, or rather from Doran, so maybe if you wait long enough. As you see Doran, he's sniffing it out just a bit.
He's sitting on 2 cookies, he's going to eat one now. He can definitely stay here, but he's not going to push it out. Just going to play very passively, very safely here. Owner's going to go around here all the way. Heavy commitment, trying to kill his GP.
All right, they're trying to get on in. He is going to use the apple really early on, the oranges rather. That's going to be first blood given over to Zeus. And a very nicely set up gank in the top lane.
And they don't even have to use a flash for either carry. Doran commits flash and still dies. So, I mean, it's really worst possible scenario here. And he had enough mana, as you mentioned, to use the oranges, but there's just too much CC here, and it's the permafrost synergy. You know what? You can hard force it like that, and it's going to work if they have enough damage in this early game. And that is the end of Doran's first life there as Sheen is picked up. Chovy putting some serious pressure on here in this lane, and this is definitely kind of been one of the consistent points here for Gen.G, is always trying to get those early advantages. Chovy has been pretty good at that, even though it hasn't translated to big wins.
Faker does take a bunch more. Peanut waiting in the wings. Chovy, let's see if he can crash this with Q3. As let's see, there's Peanut, but here's Owner as well, but the damage is coming out too fast. Peanut now, no twisted advance, but he is just going to walk this one out. Unfortunately, the Sejuani not doing too much, as Unbound Soul kind of confusingly, as Chovy is going to get frozen up and will walk it out.
So they get away. Successful kill here onto Faker. Faker doesn't flash, knows the situation he's in. Chovy set up that Q3. It was really nicely played, and is able to set up the knock up there as Peanut shows up. So went from pick top side here onto Doran. His Owner goes over the wall. Sejuani can get you into these positions without committing flash. Doran flashes, but then still caught by permafrost, and there's just too much CC here. If you get caught by that counter-strike, you've only got 1 orange to cleanse. And then Peanut comes over here and sets this one up with Chovy. Owner trying to hold him into turret aggro, but Chovy actually doesn't pick it up. Very well played. Juggling that one, Peanut holds onto it, so Chovy just walks it out there. Faker is going to be able to get the plate. It's like he almost didn't get it, but he does pick that one up, so at least that's
and
something.
Doran, once again, Owner going to flash on in. No flash here available for Doran, and you can't cleanse both of those. That's another death here for Doran. Excellently set up, and this is what we wanted to see from T1. They're doing it between Zeus and Owner.
And finally, like, they actually got the Sejuani duo, and all it took was Guma popping up on Xayah to pull one ban away, and that's all you need. And I mean, it was a really nice trap set up in draft, and the Doran angle here on this GP, if he's just shut down early, all of those things we're talking about, he's so comfortable on the pick, like he scales, barrel chains, etc., just might not matter at all. You're not passively getting gold if you're not last hitting those minions with your gun.
Yeah.
And this is going to be another wave deleted here completely. Doesn't even get the last one.
Oh.
Nope. Oh man, it's just going from bad to worse here for Doran on the top side. At least they were able to set Chovy up for a kill in mid, but this is disastrous.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, this is, again, it's why we don't see a lot of Jax Sejuani generally picked up. And remember that Genji got it in game 1, actually. And they didn't play around it, you know, amazingly, but they still won the game. Whereas this time around, it's a heavy focus. It's now trying to follow up on the play. Here is the wombo combo. It's the Yone ultimate. Gonna hit them both. This Keria does keep him alive for a while, but the Q3 is huge. Gonna knock up both Keria and Faker as the Emperor's Divide.
Oh,
now, as, yeah, he's gonna get caught by Maokai. That's 3 kills going the way of Genji.
Oh, it's a messy one, Valdez, and I'm all about it. We're running Bane in this composition. We got Chovy's Yone, and he's going to set up the Zeri for success. Actually, Chovy, though, picking up the majority of the gold from this one. It wasn't Zeri who was able to lock down the last hits of those kills, but still, pretty significant advantage there. And yeah, you might not have a top laner, but you certainly got a mid and a bot, and the advantage here in CS for FaZe is starting to really get felt here for Guma, as he's now significantly behind in this game. And the Yone Zeri types of compositions, when you have this much control, feel fantastic. And look at Faker, he's just unfortunately a little bit too far behind the play here. And yeah, Chovy's low on health than he is, but you're fighting into a choke point here. I mean, yeah, you put up the door here as Keria. Braum is trying his best to mitigate some of this, and Faker holds his ult to the last possible second, but is still caught by this Maokai ultimate. You just don't want to be opting into these fights here, into Zeri, into Yone. Bit of a lack of respect here from T1. And then
So clean.
Faker, Emperor's Divide, he just can't walk out fast enough.
Yeah. And excellent setup from the side of Delight, by the way. I know we highlight Jovi's play, but Delight was the one who saw the angle.
갱플 어시 4개 넣어놨어. 킬까지 먹었네.
Oh man, he is so hyped about this as well. And like the angle that it was looking like we might be heading down, like the path we were walking in the series after 2 deaths on Doran was like, oh man, maybe it's done. You know, this looks pretty doomed, but all it takes is one good team fight like that, and the rest of your comps win conditions are online. Now, Doran is still not relevant in this game, and it's going to be a long time before he ever is, if he is, but
yeah,
at least you've got the other angles.
Yeah, he's never going to really be relevant. Oh god, even Keria's here now. They're going to get him to flash. As, yep, once again, Owner and Keria getting Zeus ahead. And he's never really going to be relevant in the side lane for sure. I do wonder if he can get to a spot if this game will go long enough now that the rest of the team is doing okay, to where Doran at least can like hit one barrel, one ult in a team fight, and maybe that's enough. But this is a very big Zeus problem that Doran has right now.
Yeah, barrel is going to land here, and Zeus can take an extra turret shot. Peanut was in the vicinity with flash and ult. And it looks like maybe they wanted to try to come over there and punish Zeus if he wanted to be a little bit more aggressive, but he won't greed too hard. And he has picked up several plates here. I mean, he is really big. I was going to say, I'd love to see a goal lead graph here. It's 1,200, the advantage on this Jax this early. Super big problem here, but the Yone and the Zeri, these are the real win conditions here now for Genji. Lots of threats. And Peanut on the player cam is still just loving every minute of this. Remember, it's double elimination. You lose here. It's not like your tournament life is over. You can absolutely still make that run back to the finals, but it's just a little bit of a shaky series here for Genji, and the momentum is not in their favor, but it is in this game.
Yeah, and you would have really liked to just win and get a straight ticket to the grand finals plus Worlds, right? Like, that's really, really nice. So you don't lose too much, but you also have a lot to gain from actually winning. So yeah, definitely a lot of stakes here for both teams.
Essence Reaver's picked up for Doran now, so it's the first step to trying to be a champion in this game. And, you know, he's held on. Obviously, looking for a little bit more money, a little bit more relevancy. And this is going to sit there under the turret for a little bit longer. Pei is going to grab some additional plate gold down here, bottom side. And Genji really having some of their very critical pieces advanced very early. T1, the Vayne issue in team fights we talked about in the draft, you know, potentially valuable she could or could not be if she snowballs, etc. Not relevant in this early game right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to be a nothing champ in this game. We have to wait until we see real 5v5 fights like the one that Genji just crushed there again, where everybody is set up on the side of T1.
So they have Rift Herald, but they don't even need to use it in the top lane. Owner shows himself on a ward, but he's like, well, I'm just going to hold on to this Rift Herald. I mean, you have the turret already. Just my presence here is enough for Doran to have to back off the lane and for Zeus to take an entire turret by himself,
First
plus
turret, by the
all
way.
5 turret plates. So this guy already, you can see
2,000.
2.4 thousand gold ahead as Gen G, they're going to take an Ocean Drake, but guys, your top lane is kind of it's kind of in a rough spot here as it will just get the crash on the inner.
Yeah, and Chovy's going to respect this and teleport in. They still get the dragon. So 2 Drake lead here. It's Chemtech Soul again. So not feeling great about this 2 Drake lead, unfortunately, for Gen G, but it's feeling pretty good about almost everything else. And Chovy, he teleports over there. It's going to be down teleport now for... Okay.
He's very far down the lane as the flash comes in, and Faker's in a lot of trouble. Has flash himself. I don't think he's going to even bother to use it as just throws up a bunch of soldiers. But that's another kill given over to Chovy, who is 3-0 now on his Yone.
It's reminiscent of Game 1, that kill onto Faker where he was greeting for plates in a similar situation, and you could see how quickly Faker reacted and how much of a leash he gave himself there, obviously, to slide back into position there to the Sand Soldier, but still, there's just too much to lock him down. He knows he's dead, doesn't even flash, and he's greeting super hard. That's another kill going over to Chovy, and it's a lot of map control that T1 are going to potentially lose, just like we saw in Game 1. So, you know, again, Doran, not relevant, but everyone else so relevant that you start to wonder who's really ahead in this game. And I think it's like, do you believe in the side lane condition of this Jax? Do you believe that that's going to get the Vayne and the Azir into a late game win condition? Is really what you're asking yourself right now if you're a T1 fan, because the Fed Yone is a big problem, and Doran will eventually still be somewhat relevant later on in the game, and they have great engage. They have a Maokai and a Yone, and they have this Zeri that's also significantly ahead. So Faker here thought he could just dash his way out of this one, set the Sand Soldiers to get out Delight here, though. Just knocks him away from turret, and then there's just so much damage. Not going to commit the flash. If he flashes Delight's knock up there, maybe he gets out, but really tough position. Delight just had his number on that one.
Yeah, probably should have flashed it, but hindsight is 20/20. As nice to set up gank there from Gen G. But again, we're in a state where, as you mentioned, it's very unbalanced, like where your leads are, right? So you got the Sione, you got the Jax. Who is going to be able to play to those win conditions, I think, and who's going to execute better with what they're given is really what it's going to come down to, right? We've talked a bit about the drafts, but it hasn't always come to fruition. Sometimes it's just about who's playing better League of Legends, as Doran is trying to match here against Faker, which is pretty okay. Although the crown definitely the right choice here for Faker, by the way, because yeah, you can get it poked down, but you're going to be denying huge barrels, huge Yone engages. Even the Zeri is going to struggle to take that down. Not a lot of range here on the side of Gen G, so
you need
good choice.
Yeah, you need to be able to have really strong engages as the Azir, and the crown is probably just going to guarantee that happens every time. You follow up on Owner's ult as well. As this Rift Herald fight here, T1 not fully set up. Zeus coming down now, and Chovy's gonna have to go back to that. Zeus could find an angle potentially.
He could, he's thinking about it. He is going to get knocked back here by Peanut, who keeps Chovy safe, but 5 members at T1 just trying to zone them in the choke. They want to take down this objective as the smite will go over to Owner. The engage now from Delight, rather, is pretty good, but Paige is getting low, and he just gets popped by Zeus, who gets to that backline, but look at Chovy as well. Is doing incredible damage on Aguma, takes him down as the carries are really going 1-for-1 here, but still T1 on the chase. They have Zeus, they have Faker, who did use his ultimate, and Delight looks like he will have to sacrifice to get out of this one. So T1
Chovy, though,
trying to get Chovy here. That's a big shutdown if they could, but they're not going to be able to lock down the Yone.
Okay, he gets out with the Q3, dashes his way through. Doran here going to get a demolish proc, but isn't going to be able to pick up any gold here at 16 minutes into the game, but still going to delete some minions away from T1, so that's one good aspect of this lost team fight here for Gen G. T1 win the fight, grab the Herald, and it was a really nice start off by Zeus. He wraps his way around, and Chovy unbinding early. It looked really scary there. Like, oh man, this Jax is going to get him, but Peanut actually outplays it and hits him there with the Bramble Smash. So watch this passage of play here as Chovy unbinds, and then Peanut actually smashes Zeus away. Actually really important here, and then the ult goes off, which keeps T1 at bay. The Paze's ultimate here really hits nobody, and even though he's able to avoid the Emperor's Divide here, Gen G are just fighting into this choke point where it's literally a fanned-out composition of T1, and Zeus once again gets into position, and even though Chovy's here to do some really big damage, there's just not enough damage once Zeri's gone. And you're still a ranged champion who's relying on your kit. You're not going to have that damage output, unfortunately, that a enemy Azir and a Fed Jax are going to have.
Yeah, and Doran, you know, not really a factor yet. He's just kind of pushing mid, not really able to help, as, you know, he doesn't quite have that damage. And the second the Zeri's gone, as you mentioned, and Yone's just out of the fight, you don't really have any follow-up. So even though Guma goes down, Faker and Zeus able to get the job done. Now, game is still very close. You can see here, especially with the Chemtech Soul, and, you know, T1 are slightly ahead, and they are going to try to take out this mid tier 1 with the Rift Herald. Might just barely be able to, able to get across the line there.
Yeah, so picking up some more gold here now, trying to maybe set up for this Soul Point fight. Not, again, very critical for this comp. I mean, Vayne's one of the better champions to get it. Jax as well, I guess, you know, if you get that Soul. But they don't have any dragons, so they're just getting the individual healing and shielding power and tenacity. Genji looking to force this.
Yep. We will have a fight. Both teams declare as Zeus has a Mega Cone. He's got an angle. I think he's spotted just barely on the end of that. As in he goes. The spite is early from the side of Peanut. It goes to T1. Big knockups coming in now, but a lot of low health bars here on the side of Genji. As Chovy has to ult away. He is not going to be able to follow up on that initial engage. As now Delight slowed down pretty low. T1, they get the objective. Looks like they don't want to chase on this fight.
Yeah, Baron's not up for another 90 seconds here too, so it's not like Genji backing off here is going to cost them any sort of big objective, but the Dragon goes T1's way, and that Blast Cone engage from Zeus was pretty cool. He also is able to just narrowly avoid, I believe, the Nature's Grasp there from Peanut as well, so he gets into the backline. I think ultimately that's really why this fight goes so swimmingly here for T1, and with the big stun coming through, I mean, Delight takes almost all of his health instantly, and then they just know they can't win this longer fight. Doran is not a factor. As you mentioned in the last fight, he's still not a factor in this one either. And the Cannon Barrage is kind of tickling T1 as they are able to push Genji away. And you're fighting towards the Vayne. Like, that's the cool thing about the Vayne in this comp, is when Yone is your only Fed carry. I mean, you have Zeri, obviously, but she's very fragile. You're kind of walking into the low-range Vayne, and she's very happy to accept that challenge in fights like this.
It's part of the reason why you picked the Vayne in this one. Is it's such a low-range comp from the side of Genji. You're going to have a lot of targets to chase, potentially, as what is going on here. Chovy miles down the lane, but it doesn't look like Zeus is going to commit, as he doesn't quite have the support nor the vision. And he doesn't want to throw away his gigantic bounty he's got on his head now that he's 4-0.
Look at this build from Chovy as well. We've seen a lot of different variations of the tank Yone, but the Even Shroud here he's going to pick up is going to be empowering him when he sets up those CCs, as well as his teammates, and empowering this area as well. I think a lot of the time with this, he's gone full utility here, and I actually think it's pretty cool. It's reminiscent of the old Sunfire Bork builds we saw on Yone in the past.
Yeah, I think... I don't know, I might have just preferred him to do damage, but like you mentioned, it kind of does enable the rest of his team and himself even, so definitely an interesting choice. I feel like we need like a 10-minute desk segment to really break this down.
Well, I think in a lot of ways, Valdez, like the way this game has to be won for Genji is extending it so long, and obviously with the Soul being such a non-factor in this game, plus their 2 Drake lead, they're just saying, okay, Yone is really strong now and really ahead, but that's not going to matter in 10, 12 minutes where the game is probably going to be decided. So I just want to empower this Gangplank and this Zeri later on where they're going to be super relevant. I want to make sure my engages are good. It's basically crown Yone, essentially. It's like what he's saying here, and I like that.
Yeah, it's definitely going to keep him alive. Try to use that lead to just stay alive, stay relevant, stay doing damage. I think I would have liked the Sunfire better, but either way, here we go. We got a push in from Genji, trying to get on top of the Braum now. As you see, they can extend pretty far for this one, but big burst into Chovy anyway, as he's getting some alone time with his top turret and should be able to take it out.
This is a huge problem, and it's going to get worse as Doran, you know, if he gets counter-struck, he's dead in any scenario for the rest of this game. So the fact that Zeus could just walk up to these turrets and say goodbye is very problematic for map control.
Oh, the sapling keeping him around. They want to engage on Zeus right now, but they're so scared of him. They're just hopping away, but now no counter-strike. Can they burst him down? Zeus is alone, and he lives for an incredibly long amount of time as Chovy can't quite take him. They finally get him at the end as Chovy will pick up the kill. Zeus isolated, and now it's 5v4.
Yeah, Gen G should definitely be able to start up this Baron here. As Yone doesn't have ult, obviously, but still, they have the man advantage. Teleport back from Chovy.
A lot of damage being done right now by Faker. You see those Sand Soldiers owner trying to get into the pit as Chovy looking for the angle, not going to get the knockup, has to go back. And
this is awkward now.
Yeah, it gets real awkward as the Divide comes in. Delight going to engage. It's going to take away Faker as he is not able to live. And now Guma just being hounded down. Gets the 1 kill, but it's a double for the side of his opponent, Pays, who just barely not going to hit that. But Guma is pretty doomed. Down he goes. Pays going to pick up 3.
All right, so T1 now losing several members here. The shutdown comes through onto the Jax, and Chovy just got bigger. He's like, all right, I'll go for the IE to finish this one off. I don't know what he's building, actually. Picks up the pickaxe. And, you know, you can't build IE third, you know, on this anymore, but he's going to pick up a ton of money, and they're going to get the Baron. Zeus going to try to come here. Last ditch attempt to steal.
Yeah.
And...
Burst is coming in. Oh, he's going to charge over, and he's not able to avoid. Oh, he flashes. Jeez, that was close. Got in with like 1,000 health, but not quite able to do it. That's Flash now down, and Gen G in control of this game.
Yeah, they're in control of this game. Chovy picked up a ton of money. Like I said, regardless of what he builds 30 here, he's going to do a ton more damage with the gold he picks up after locking down Zeus. So Zeus is actually getting up into the thick of things here, but notice the lack of follow-up damage here. They just don't really have any of it. Bane is in mid. Like, Guma's not on top of this, so when Zeus is locking down these champions and trying to do damage on his own, there's no carrier. And once he's dead, it's really tough to fight it out, and Faker doesn't get a ton of value with his Emperor's Divide here. Doran sitting on the side, then Delight comes in, takes Faker out of the equation, and then it's a dead Braum. Bane can't do anything here, 1v4. And Chovy, I mean, he's pretty big in this game, even though he went for a utility build. Now the game is getting longer. They're getting a lot of money. Doran's starting to become more and more relevant as well. A little bit concerned here for what T1 is going to do. All of the eggs in the Jax basket, and it looks like it might have just dropped to the floor.
And the other baskets, you look at Faker and you look at the Vayne Guma, like those baskets are all right, but they don't quite compare to the amount of eggs that are in the baskets of, you know, even the Zeri and the GP at this point, who picked up the Navori Quick Blades, and you give enough time to this Gen G comp, they will just bop you with the sheer amount of damage that they have. The amount of AoE damage as well is pretty insane, and target acquisition as well. So
yeah, I mean, the Randuins here for Peanut is just so fantastic. I feel like into what T1 are running. They've got to get on top of you, and it's going to really hurt the Jax's power. It's basically an anti-Jax item in this particular case, as it is the shield bow he does complete here third. This build really threw me for a loop. I apologize to everyone. But I don't know how they win this now as T1 without a really clutch multi-man stun or big Emperor's Divide, because there's just too many threats. And even Doran is becoming a threat. He's a whole item behind, but he's still GP, still does a bunch of damage AoE in these fights. Yep. And he outranges you. If he could set up those barrel chains, when you have this much map control, guess what? You know, you're going to have those barrels down.
Yeah, no, they are, and I think Zeus is just the one threat they have. He gets Zhonya's third, and Gen G are just ignoring him. They have the Baron buff, they go top, and this is the triple threat right here. There's no tanks with this at all. It's just Chovy, Doran, and Pays moving forward, taking a turret, as T1 cannot match this. Not without Zeus, not without the whole team being there, basically. And the Baron push just getting more and more value to fill the coffers of the GP, who looks to be going Collector next. The Yone, who is going to have a lot of resistances, a lot of tankiness in this one.
Yeah. The Jax can buy T1 a lot of time here, and the Baron has now run out. So they haven't lost any inhibitors, so no permanent base damage done here by Gen G. You see that swing of gold in those last two fights really spiking here for Gen G. Looks like Doran will not be able to stop this back here, but he actually lurks.
He is a bit of a lurker, but we do have Pays down here, and Peanut is here, but Zeus just kind of following his prey at this moment in time, as Peanut is going to come on down, but the TP is in position. Now Doran's just gonna have to flash. We got TP coming in here from Jovi, as he's like, oh God, get me out of here. I didn't want to join in on this. I didn't ask for any of this. Is Peanut just gonna dab his way out?
Very, very strange exchange down here on the bottom side, but Zeus, just by standing in a brush, actually gets T1 into a pretty nice spot here on the bottom side of the map. Get the Yone ult out, get Doran's flash out. You can see that, you know, Doran's actually a level up, actually, with all the time he's been given in this game, as well as all the kills he picked up. Like, he's picked up a decent amount of experience, right, despite being so far behind in the early game. So it took Zeus a while to actually get on top of him and like, really threaten to kill him. But ultimately, because he had a lot of friends there, Doran has to flash out. So big win here from Zeus just by the lurk and the commitment there. As Gen.G, 12 kills to 5, 5,000 gold still ahead in this game. Absolutely, and have a very strong, well-rounded composition. But if one miracle Counter-Strike goes off in one of these fights, or Faker has a really great Emperor's Divider, somebody gets picked by Owner setting up an ult, I think this game is still winnable for T1, and that's the one thing that T1 has been, I think, so much more than really any other team in our playoffs so far, is clutch in situations like this. And if they've taught me anything after I predicted them to lose 3-0 to T1, is just do not count them out even when the situation looks dire, as it does in this game, because right now it feels very doomed.
Yeah. Definitely the dark horse of these playoffs, now turned into potentially the strongest team. But let's see if Gen.G can pilot this lead that they have in this game. Not a lot of action in the current state, because T1 from behind, they don't really want to force anything, and Gen.G from ahead, they know they scale incredibly with GP and Zeri, and even the Yone, so they're just kind of sitting, resting on their laurels for now. But I think once this Baron does spawn, we will be fighting over that Chemtech, so, you know, maybe Gen.G can collect that if they do find an opportunity, but shouldn't commit heavily into that if the Baron is available.
Yeah, no, don't think so. Zeus looking for a flank. Notice where he is around this Drake pit. There's no vision for Gen.G whatsoever. Like, they have not done their due diligence about that.
Yeah.
He's going to just come over here and really have a potential big engage angle if he's just left his own device. He's going to get a red buff while he's waiting as well. As Baron's coming up, and the problem is with Zeus here on this lurk is if they don't go for the Drake, which they probably won't even though they're closer to it, he's not going to get much out of it.
All right, Unbound Soul down. Zeus still lurking.
They're just going straight towards the Drake, too. His weight is going to pay off. Another lurk from the Jax.
Uh-oh, Pays in trouble, and he is going to cleanse. They get the cleanses. Now Zeus goes into a stopwatch. Delight taking a bunch of damage. The Wombo combos here is taking a huge amount as the Jax, and he will go down through the counter-strike, and now Pays has the front line. The engage from Delight is insane, and it looks like Gen.G will absorb the pressure and should be able to take down this game number 4. It's a clean ace to the side of Gen.G, and they'll push down and bring us to Silver Scream.
It was a great try from Zeus, but with the press of his cleanse button, Pays is A-OK, and they are going to be able to win that longer fight. T1 putting up a good fight here with the Zeus resources they were given. Everything we wanted to see from this team. The Jax, the Sejuani, they had an early lead, but everything else going so wrong in those early game fights where Chovy got ahead is just ultimately too much here for T1. And it looks like, again, we are going to Silver Scrapes here, Valdez, in a T1 series. And Gen.G will not go quietly into the lower bracket. They are going to fight this one through. And, I mean, this has been one of our best playoffs we have ever had. I really feel like this is just crazy back and forth action. Now, the draft for T1, this time I think you had insanely good aspects of it. They played towards those, but the weaker parts of it definitely fell flat.
Yeah, and I think Delight had a masterclass of a game. Like, the Alistar is just becoming this pick that all of our best supports are like, no, you just can't give this to us. And, you know, other players did, obviously. I'm sure we're going to get votes for Chovy, even for Peanut, right? Like, he had some decent moments. But at the end of the day, I think it just came down to the consistent hard engage of that Alistar over and over again that T1 just could not handle. Even with their lead, they weren't able to play around just the 4-0 Jax, especially because the other side had a 5-0 Yone. not to mention everyone else. And the Vayne experiment doesn't quite work. I don't think it's really because of Vayne herself. I just don't think that Gumo was really ever given an opportunity to do anything in this game.
Yeah, the game was so lopsided that Gen.G has identified their win conditions are to slow it down a little bit and look for great 5v5 fights where they have pretty nice range advantages, plus pretty consistent engages. And Faker, unfortunately, yeah, he did more damage than Chovy, but his impact was nowhere near what Chovy did in this game. And yeah, this comp just didn't really come together. Zayas tried to put the team on his back. He really did, but it wasn't going to be enough in that fourth game.
Well, we're going to 5. We're going to Silver Scrapes. It is happening, and whoever wins in Game 5 when all the pressure is on will go to Worlds, will go to the LCK Finals, and will achieve glory here at the LCK in one way or another. But guys, we are done for this game number 4. We're going to take a break, and the space will break down, bringing us into Silver Scrapes.
자, 세주 넘어. 야, 뒤. 자, 잭스 먼저. 잭스 보셔, 잭스.
아.
안 나면 더. 잭스. 오, 잭스 잡았고. 계속 가자. 나 통과 갈게요. 하면 이겨. 야, 베인 떴어. 베인. 가자. 야, 라인. 브라운 봤어. 아지도 높을. 아지 잡다. 끝내. 브라운 높을. 아, 나이스. 아, 우리 팀 지렸다. 아니 장단 좋았다. 아 다행이다. 가보자. 막판 잘해보자. 자 어택 5세트 보여준다. 야, 플래그 세운 거. 자 다행이다. 나이스요. 나이스 먼저. 이걸 이겨? 해줘야지. 아래에서 잘했다. 나이스. 나이스요.
요즘 파티예요 아주. 31일 만에 선발 출전 메이커가 돌아왔습니다. 아래도 관문 돌파.
And welcome back to the space, everyone, as we are going in Game 5 here between Genji and T1. Guys, this playoff's so hype, honestly. I was not expecting this in summer at all.
I am happy that after multiple games of I'm better, no I'm better, no I'm better, and we get a competitive game. This one really did feel like up until the point where the Baron was taken, it was actually a close game with back and forth action. We had Zeus being fed, we had Chovy and Pace being fed. It wasn't a blowout. I'm happy.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's really happy to see like both teams like exactly know why they lost. Like, they exactly know why they win, why they lost. So like every single game, they're coming with a new feedback, new draft, and it's like stabilizing bottom as we said from the draft, and also Chovy's getting fed. Even for T1, it's still playing on the Zeus and the Zeus getting fed, but they cross the line.
It's perfect, right? You actually play towards the Jax Sejuani 2v2. Hard punish that. Then on the other end, you play towards your Maokai Yone. Actually utilize the Gangplank Global Ultimate. And then in the end, it comes down to the team fighting, and Genji pulls ahead.
Yeah, and adaptations in drafts, as we said. Although here, for the side of T1, they took a bit of a risk. I'm not saying that the draft was bad. I'm just saying that the win conditions are really narrow here. We've been talking about Keria on prom. I would like the camera to zoom on Huni here.
Yeah, I mean the reason why I said the cross the line, the T1 make the same mistake as we said it. To cross the line, they picked up Braum. And Little Happy Gaming with the Vayne Braum on bottom in 2023. Bro, Zeri just released the champion like last year. And the Vayne released the champion forever. It's not a lot.
Yeah,
not
the Xayah ban, I think is going to come back in the next game. Because that one actually ended up really paying off, as we did see that without that... I don't think it's is down to Guma specifically. We've seen teams have a difficult time dealing with Zeri, right? We also saw Aiming kind of get into trouble when the champion pool was kind of pinched, and I think we'll see that here again in the next game. But yeah, it's not even that Keria is a bad problem. He went 1.Q full E max into W max, so like he did everything right as far as we're concerned.
No, for sure.
But as it turns out, without Keria on engage, team looks a whole lot worse.
And also, like, as I said, I think it's easier to maneuver here on the side of Genji. We saw that as well. Chovy having an amazing
pressure R buttons.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pressure bot. Mid also popping off here. They were hard to stop, and I think we're gonna see Alistar being the best support we have in the meta right now with what he can create, both in lane and in the mid game as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why, because like if you don't have a playmaking champion, it's easier to make a mistake, and that means like around the object that there's a higher chance that you're gonna mess up. Like we're gonna see like this multiple highlight. It's including like everything. Like Braum cannot start the fight, and that means like Alistar can choose to when to fight, when to go, when to press R. This is the thing. Like these types needs the point of like option who has is no matter what Alistar favor.
I don't know who picks it up between Delight and Chovy, but that one too was so pivotal in winning this game, right? The combination of the Alistar, as you point out, it's Alistar in particular is really interesting because he both allows you to disengage and to engage. As solitary engage, I don't think is as good as like Rel or Nautilus because of the changes they did to him, right? He's not really able to lock people down for as far. But if you have Maokai and Yone on top of that, then you don't need nearly as much time. And we saw right there, Gangplank ult on top of it makes it really hard to play out early fights.
Yeah, Gangplank champion, and we don't see that often actually. Good matchup in 2Jax, but I think the laning phase is quite difficult, but it was not really about this here today. Let's jump into the Baron fight. And guys, talk me through what happened here, and where did you see T1 lose the...
So Zeus already died here, and when you're that fat, unfortunately for him, you don't get to make any mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, you're not allowed. It's really sad. Like, I'm not really blaming for Zeus, but it's just like the difficulty, like as we explaining about like the Genji has a Yone and Zeri, both carries are fat, but Zeus is not fat. And also as a champion, like as I said it too, like for T1, who can actually make a play, there's like almost no one. Like it's only Sejuani. Azir's not a Fed champ, and also they're playing Braum and Vayne, so it's only for Zeus that who can actually kind of 1v9 the game. But difficulty, it's so tough.
It is. It really is. Now, let's move forward because it's Game 5 that we're interested in here today. How do we rate either team's chances of taking Game 5 here? And
I think actually it will be really even final game because I think that we're going to still see Gen G take the adaptations that they made, and I think that when Gen G have been able to withstand the early game, they do look better. I think game number 3, the one which they lost the hardest, was also the game where they played by far the sloppiest. And if they clean it up, I think we're going to get another game like this, where it is very even, and T1 is going to try and withstand, you know, maybe some of the early pressure towards mid, which Faker in this game struggled with. Really big contrast to the previous game where he absorbed it all.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely agree. Like, and also our prediction was a 3-2. I was on T1 side, he's on Gen G side, so one of us, we're gonna be right. I'm happy that it's Game 5 banger series. Like as he said it, I think the at least Game 4 throughout the later going the series, the teams are actually getting better. I could easily see the quality of the game right now. It's getting better and better. So I can't wait for the Game 5.
Yeah, I mean, each game, each team is just getting better, and each player as well. Let's reveal the player of the game who was the most influential during this one. And I'm happy to see Delight here, initiating every time he could, disengaging every time he could as well. Again, flashing on Alistar, I think it's one of his best champions today.
Yeah, I'm not even going to make the Chovy Rob joke, because I do think that even though he voted for him, it was him and Delight. I really feel like it's been these two-man units of support, plus whichever player is popping off for any given team. And Delight has not had the best playoffs. I think this game is really important for him, both in the 2v2 and I think just in mechanical execution. He hasn't really lived up to the level that, I mean, in particular the global cast. We all voted, I think all of us except for Wolf, which went for Lens, which also makes sense. But we really rated this player highly. Wolf also had him second. And we haven't really seen that level of dominance. So seeing him have such a great game, I think is really big.
I mean, we said it like right
Perfect.
before
Yeah.
the Gen G, to order to win, their both duo has to step up no matter what. And they did. So that's their result. They deserve it.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how the votes are split here, honestly. It represents really well what they find. Yeah, it's the second time, but it makes sense. Yeah. It makes sense as well. If we have a bit of time, I want us to touch on the win conditions for both teams. We talked about this in pre-show. We have way more people watching today. So how can we re-evaluate how both teams are supposed to win this Game 5?
Well, I mean, starting with a T1, I think it's starting with T1. I mean, I think it's a.
You think they're gonna win? So
because
you can open with that one.
Because it's 3-2. That's my prediction. No Braum.
No Braum.
No Braum. That's the first one. That has to be first one. Like nearly Delight just got POG with the Alistar, who can actually make the play like this, and T1 has to know why they lost with the Braum and Vayne, and no early death. Especially, there's a lot. You know, like I think a lot taking from Faker as well. Like he criticizing not actually just have a secret lane.
And then for Gen G, I think we saw again, if Peanut and Chovy do get early leads, they run the map. Really important that they get that here. Stabilize bot lane, make sure that Pays and Delight are in a matchup where they don't get boomed in the 2v2, and no overstepping. No invades into red buffs. Peanut, you're Maokai, it's fine. Just take the Herald. No crazy overextensions. And then I do think that Gen G can take the game number 5 here, but it's going to be a close one. And I'm happy because some of the games in this playoffs has been blow up, but the game 5s thus far, been amazing.
Yeah, they serve, definitely. It's been an amazing series so far with both teams ramping up in this round 3 of playoffs. Casters, take it away for Game 5.
Well, thank you, Spacers, for that awesome breakdown. You can light up your phone at home, too, if you want. And join us all here for Silver Scrapes, as Subin was just playing the flute?
Recorder?
The recorder?
Yeah.
She was playing recorder version of Silver Scrapes on the Korean stream. So that was an experience, Wolf.
Yeah, it certainly was. You know, we don't have Mark C here, but we can get that. So that's what we do here in Korea. Now,
Close enough.
You can feel the pressure here mounting in this 5th game. I think we've had massive momentum shifts, and, you know, in the middle of a series like this, it feels like, oh wow, T1, they've got two back-to-back games. Everything is on their side now. They're in complete control. But one change up in the draft, the ban of the Xayah, and then you win that game right before the final one. Momentum's back in your court here as Gen G, and a very dominant win. Yeah, there were some weird moments in the early game, obviously, with Doran falling super far behind, but this 5th and final game decides it all. Who's going straight to the finals, as well as being our first seed sent to Worlds. It is a huge, huge, huge final game here for both of these teams.
Yeah.
The stakes could not be higher.
Everybody looks so nervous on both sides, and it's understandable. There's just so much to gain by winning this one. Again, you know, you lose, you get a second chance, you're not out of it, but it would be really lovely to have that cushion going into the rest of the year. But
I mean, you got to play against KT or Hanwha Life, likely KT, right? And KT already brought you to the brink if you're Team 1. They've already beaten Gen G twice, in really critical games. Like there was the Shiv, of course, incident right in the first one, but that series felt like it could have gone KT's, and you lost that second series pretty handily as Gen G. You know, you don't want to face KT. You just do not. You save that one for the finals if you're going to meet them there. That's what you'd like to do, and just go to Worlds and be able to represent Korea. T1 has been cursed. Every time Worlds is in Korea, they are not participating. They were able to do MSI last time around, but in this 5th and final game, they can bring themselves that ticket straight away, skip the gauntlet.
Well, we're here in the draft at Game 5. We get the epic music that's not even Silver Scrapes. We have our own fun draft music, and it's going to be interesting. You know, as the desk was saying, it all gets just slightly better on both sides. Like if you lose, you just slightly tinker your draft, slightly tinker your gameplay so that you can be just one step ahead of your opponents. Blue side has been majoritively the winning side so far in this series, and T1 will have side selection. They choose blue here for the final game. Should be a slight advantage, I'd say. I don't think it's going to dictate whether or not they win, as Corki is banned.
Yeah, trying to maybe pull out an Azir first pick here from T1. See if Faker's going to opt into that, and will, of course, then give over a lot of prio picks. And for the first time, Kai'Sa will get locked in here with no Xayah answer. Gen G, see what FaZe wants to play this time around. They just still feel comfortable, you know, that even without this prio pick, he can get it done. They banned Zeri, so T1 very aware of this possibility, and we're happy to first lock the Kai'Sa. And now does Chovy want to take away Faker's Azir here? I feel like that's a strategy that actually does make sense. You can grab the Maokai here early. We haven't seen Jace in this series just yet. Certainly could come in as the Alistar prio is rising in delight after picking up that POG. Yeah. You're just going to grab this one too. So you know where both of these picks are going. The Maokai flex is not a thing, but it seems like otherwise a very reactionary draft for Gen G now.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. The Alistar could have easily been picked on the side of T1 if it wasn't picked here.
Poppy.
The Poppy's available. The Rell also available, but the Alistar kind of prevents you or makes it so you don't really want to pick that. But Poppy Azir here for T1 already extremely strong.
Yeah, Faker is going to get his Azir even though they prioritize the Kai'Sa over it, and Owner gets to play Poppy. And this has been banned for every game for a reason. Both Peanut and Owner are so good at this pick, and T1 are getting their hands on that and the Kai'Sa here. Feels very strong, and we'll see what Gen G want to answer with. The Jace here for Chovy could be what they opt into, but they'll try to put the Aphelios here into this third slot for FaZe. This could be a decision that comes back to bite them, absolutely. I mean, we're talking massive range here in terms of T1's comp already for their damage, and you're not setting up any poke here with the Maokai. The Aphelios so low range here, it feels really risky, and you don't have any sort of answer to the Kai'Sa poke in the late game, not yet. And the Rumble here, so it looks like we're trying to prioritize Doran's pick here on R4.
Yeah, this is about to get very interesting as no top laners picked. We've had so much top lane focus throughout this entire series, but now it comes down to the second phase as Taliyah once again taken away from Chovy. He played it once, and that was the end of it. They're like, okay, well, you prepared this for the Azir. That Faker is definitely going to play, and he has played a ton. And so we're just not going to let you have that. The Aphelios, very interesting, Wolf. I'm not sure about that, but, you know, might just come down to execution.
I mean, I'm probably the biggest one in our entire caster group who doesn't dislike the Aphelios as much as everyone else. Like, I still think it's a very viable pick, but I just worry about it into this draft specifically. I'm going to take away Doran's Gangplank here now, so See if he just opts into grabbing the Jax or the Renekton here. No Sejuani, obviously, in this draft, but still very strong and has great setup with the Maokai. And, you know, the pool is getting quite thinned out here for Zeus in terms of what's left to play. Could just trade the Renekton, as we're going to see the Nico get hovered here.
Remember this pick?
Yeah, very strong enabling pick in terms of engage. The Yone is going to opt into instead, though, and it's the harder engage here now. Gonna make a front line for that Aphelios.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, we saw what Chovy did in Game 4, and I don't see any reason why he can't do it in this one. Yes, he's up against Poppy this time. I think that's the big difference maker, but he's just so good at the pick. Like, why not just pick it up? He's obviously on point with it tonight, as Jax is going to be the choice here once again for Zeus.
It's got to be Rel for Keria here. He is so good at this pick. You have the Kai'Sa dive follow-up. You have Jax. There's just so many different ways to actually get on top of backline targets here. The immobile Aphelios is going to be always in danger here. They're going to consider some other options here in terms of pushing into the Alistar, but they do opt into the Rel. You know, the Lulu was still available, but doesn't feel great in this composition. And it's just going to be Doran K'Sante here that they round out this draft with. So not a whole lot of magic damage outside of the Maokai here. T1, on the other hand, have one of their strongest drafts of the series yet. I mean, they got Rel, they got Kai'Sa, Faker's on Azir. I mean, when you look at this draft and go, well, the weakest part of this draft is the Azir in terms of tier list here, and it's Faker playing the Azir, that's when you know T1 got a draft they're pretty happy about. But Gen.G still have a lot of setup for this Yone, and it's going to be about Chovy popping off and carrying. Pays will have to position well. That's not something that we really ever criticize for this player, even in today's series where he's had a little bit of shakiness in lane. In terms of his positioning on the Aphelios, he's one of the best. He's Rookie of the Year, and I mean, if you can't trust Chovy to get it done on the Yone, what can you trust in your life, Valdez?
Exactly.
I think this draft is going to be so epic. I think what Huni said was true on the space. The quality of game has gotten better and better. The quality of draft as well. Draft adaptation brings us to what could be our most exciting and closest game of the series.
Both of these teams are just so good at best of fives. Like, this is just one reason why they keep meeting in the end of playoffs, is that they're just so good at figuring it out. The coaching staff is great. The players have a great understanding of what works, what doesn't, what works for them, their teammates, etc. And we're here once again. Fantastic draft for the side of T1. They did index into more kind of hard engage, like jumping in champions after they had a big range advantage, but I think it still works alongside of the follow-up engage from the Azir, as Chovy's back on Yone. I almost said Yone's back on Chovy, basically means the same thing. Here we go, guys. We are ready for Game 5. Silver Scrapes. Let's hop onto the Rift.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
It's it. Game 5. We made it here, Valdez, to the epic conclusion. Everybody knew, almost everybody. There were a few 3-1 predictors, but most people knew and expected this to go to 5. Because
who knows what those guys were thinking, right? I was a 3-1.
He was a 3-1 predator.
Gen.G.
But I think the overarching opinion was that this was going to be a back-and-forth series with two teams that really know how to draft, with T1 really bringing it back in playoffs. The Faker shows up, still claims he's not fully recovered, but has overall been good enough in lane and has, you know, weathered the storm enough times to where he's been very relevant on this Azir pick that they've relied on so much in draft. It was not punished this time by Gen.G, and you know, we're in a situation where Gen.G strike back in that fourth game, you know, where they have some really clutch plays from Chovy early. Doran falls behind, but he's still able to stay relevant in those later fights. And it's just, you can't ask for a crazier story than this. I mean, the fact that T1 is even here in the first place was something nobody predicted, nobody saw coming. Yeah, and here we are.
Yeah, and I do think that, again, KT didn't play their best of 5. Gen.G had some stumbles here, but a lot of credit does deserve to be given over to T1 for the run they have been able to make. Nobody really expecting it. And they have defied those expectations. So let's see if they can take the final step, or will Gen.G, the expected victor in this one, take it down? Although, of course, over the last 4 games, expectations have changed wildly back and forth.
Doran has been pretty good on this K'Sante. It's a pick that's hard to really mess up, and normally we aren't huge fans of the Cassante in terms of what its power is in team fights, but with an Aphelios comp and a lot of setup with the Yone and the Maokai, it feels really good here, actually. You can follow up on engage with your Q3. You have a lot of space. You have a lot of time to stack those up and get on top of some of these targets. You can peel really well for the engage. So the Cassante actually does feel like one of those points in the draft you're not excited about. So, Faker again.
Yeah, the timing of this is perfect from Peanut as the flash on it. Gonna take Peanut all the way underneath the turret. Will it matter as he takes 2 turret shots? And Owner's just doing the blue while this is all happening.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Faker gets away.
If you lead with the root, you're going to get pulled because Faker always does this. He pushes his advantages and then just jumps to his Sand Soldier and dashes max range. He shuffles, as it's called here colloquially in the LCK, back to his turret and flashes, and that pulls Peanut into too much turret aggro before Chovy can layer that damage on top. And so, yeah, Faker loses flash here, but Peanut will as well.
Big rotation over. Now this is Poppy. I don't think that Chovy alone can really deal with double buff Poppy. And in fact, it's going to be the flash in as Keria sets it up, picks up first blood. And Chovy not respecting the Poppy and not respecting that first roam from the bottom lane.
Oh,
got a nice lead.
In the crowd as well. I mean, the environment that we are casting this in this room with some of the most passionate fans in esports on both sides. You could just feel the tension as Owner's going to smite this one away. Great start here for T1. Faker handles the pressure from Peanut. He's down a flash. Then Yone gets caught. Now Chovy also down both summoners. It's going to be a little bit tougher for him to put the pressure on he wants here in this lane against Faker. See if Peanut gets punished again.
Peanut doesn't get to jungle. I mean, Owner, he can just sit in front of him, take his camps, smite them away, and he's ahead by 3 camps already, and one of them including the blue buff of Peanut. So Peanut very far behind to try to flash onto an Azir that has flash.
Yeah, and Poppy's early game has been so impactful throughout this entire season. And, you know, Owner very rightfully criticized a lot this season, but also this series for some shaky performances, the Kazakhs especially coming to mind. But you give him this opportunity on the Poppy, and he knows exactly how to play this champion to its fullest potential. Peanut does too, but he's just going to be the one who's on the wrong side of it this time around. Finds himself now significantly behind in farm, as you mentioned. And Owner's just going to constantly continue to put this pressure on here. The Jax having prio topside as well means Owner has run of the rift.
And you know that Peanut knows immediately. Peanut can't hit level 4. I mean, he's desperate just to farm his own jungle. And guess what? Keria's here now because they already got the win in mid. There's no prio for Genji, so Keria can come up. Owner is joining. Smite goes the way of Peanut, but take a look at the health bar of Doran. You know, they're threatening. I don't think they're going to dive into Cassante here, but definitely threatening it as here comes Delight. Wants to pick up another POG. Doesn't look like Faker will get caught this time.
Faker with the Amp Tome here, just putting a little bit of pressure on with his Sand Soldiers. Actually is able to poke Chovy out of lane. Chovy doesn't have teleport, so that should be a plate potentially here. Flanking Alistair.
Yeah, this is a very long flank. Immediate cleanse comes out, and they're going to be okay with that. As Delight, he had flash, but, you know, Guma flashes away. They don't have vision in the river. They don't know what's coming there, and Keria was on the way. So they get the flash at Aguma anyway for that big roam from Delight.
Peanut came to mid to try to push Faker out, but it looks like he's going to stay here. It does have a ton of mana with the Doran's ring, so actually going to be fine here. Chovy hits 6. Faker does not complete the plate, gets about 2/3 of it here, but is sitting on a pretty hefty gold lead now after that last exchange between the two of them. And you can see the gold lead here for FaZe is all that they're really sitting on right now as Genji. It's still the early game, still not a whole lot of action. It's not like this is a massive lead for T1, but feeling pretty good about this. The laning phase here for FaZe going swimmingly up a level. See if Owner can make something happen down here. I don't think they'll commit.
Yeah, I don't really need to. You still have prio in mid. Faker's going to have his flash up first as well, so I think they can just start this up pretty easily. Note that Guma's going to be going for the AD builds, or he has a Recurve Bow going for the Kraken Slayer. This is, you know, he's got Azir, Jax, Poppy on his team. The AP Kai'Sa has been very strong, but we've seen the AD Kai'Sa coming back in certain compositions like this. I haven't been the biggest fan of it, but it kind of makes sense compositionally.
Yeah, and they don't really need to rely on poke in this draft anymore since there's no answer from Genji.
Oh, a little push, and no. Owner just saying hello.
Can go back to send your soul back to where it was bound very easily into this, and that's exactly what Chovy does. So now he has ult advantage here in mid. See if they can turn it into anything here. Obviously giving up the Drake early. The Herald is going to spawn in 15, and this is the kind of comp, you know, if Peanut could hit 6, that you absolutely can team fight very well with, but Owner trying to steal away this buff would actually give him 6. He's not able to do so.
Chovy kind of have a knocker spot. Nice dodge there on the stun. Otherwise, could have been some danger, although Faker does not have his ult, so yeah, just going to get away. And big rotation up towards that Rift Herald. Big committal from both sides, but nobody has actually gone for it just yet.
I love this game from Owner, how he is doing what Peanut has done to so many times, including him, in very critical best of 5s, and taking the advantages, pushing the jungle lead, not overextending though. He was measured in how he went over and contested that red buff, and playing Peanut's game really well, actually. And you love to see the growth of this player who I think, you know, was known for mechanics only early on in his career, but has really turned that around, and his Poppy has always been very strong. Area over here going to get zoned out as Peanut says, okay, if you want to play vertical, we'll play vertical.
From Faker, he's in position, reading the play. Now Keria could try to make a play himself, but full summoners on the bottom side and doesn't quite pan out. Maybe expecting more of a heavy dive in from Genji. But Peanut's just stealing away the red, finally getting some revenge of his own.
Yeah, Faker also not having Emperor's Divide. They're going to hurt his ability to make a play there. And Poppy into Yone, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Or Yone into Poppy, I guess, in this case, you know?
Yeah. Well, Peanut's getting pretty deep for this one. He does have a big backing here, 4 members of Genji. But there's no Drake to really fight for. Meanwhile, Owner did pick up the Rift Herald and just farming his own jungle. Doesn't really care about his opponent at this point.
Yep. Zaya's trying to break a freeze here. We'll get the proxy off and we'll be able to reset, so he's not going to be in any danger as he tries to put the pressure on this Cassante a little bit further. And you see Faker in mid here. The lane is completely reset. I mean, it's a very close game. Got to be careful here trying to play with this Alistar. They don't overextend. Level 6 here first for Delight.
Generally don't play with the bulls. No, they're pretty aggressive, especially Delight's Alistar.
And he took the red chroma on the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, don't do that, as now we get a little bit of ults using actually 3 in the bottom side as the dive is coming in, but it is very lackluster. Delight nearly dies, and a very forced dive does not work out here on Taguma and Keria.
Yeah. Owner is over here, is spotted on this ward, and they should be able to get out. It's over here.
Nice little push all out under the turret. The Counter-Strike does actually hit Doran on the back side of that, so gain some distance, and Zaze will be okay, but does have to flash.
Yeah, flashing just doesn't want to take another turret shot there. Herald going to get dropped bottom after Delight loses most of his health here, so just not going to be able to stick around. Peanut stays here, and is going to look to try to slow this, but it will charge. Plate gold does go over to Guma, nicely executed here by T1. Not going to over-index into this, just want to make sure they can get some additional gold into this Kai'Sa, as he's farmed up pretty hard here. Chovy and teleport back into lane. It's going to be a plate though.
Yeah. I was going to say he's going to greed for this plate, but actually extremely safe. Had Owner right next to him.
Had to flash Emperor's Divide. He's fully safe.
Soldier in position. Even with Delight on the roam. I feel for Delight in this one, especially after the early game. He's like looking for any angle he can find. He's like trying to go mid. He's trying to go even up to the Rift Herald. He's trying to like be in the enemy jungle, trying to go for dives, but nothing really working for him so far.
Yeah. 2 Drake lead would be fantastic for T1 with the already great start they have. See if they can wrestle enough on Prio here in mid to actually start this one up. Faker is going to rotate over after clearing that wave. And if Genji give this one up, we'll see what the soul is going to be. We've had a lot of Chemtechs in this one, so not 100% sure what we're going to get. Might be one more, and Genji will be thanking Ox, I suppose, for that one if it does come to pass. But See this group up here now. Faker getting mid prio, and it looks like Owner's just going to start this one up. Gen.G not looking confident to contest here. And Faker, I mean, he's had such a great laning phase here, picking up plate gold, having that prio when it matters now as Peanut's coming over very late.
Yeah, and as Gen.G, if you're going to make a play for this, you really need to lay some of the groundwork first. I mean, there's not a lot of vision control. You lost the Scuttle Crab. They do have their Aphelios in a pretty good spot, but their mid lane is in tatters. Like, Faker's just sitting there hitting it. As meanwhile, with a big zoom out, Guma's still on the bottom side, and Gen.G are going to commit heavily to take this one down.
Okay, here comes Keria. He has level 6.
Yeah, gonna try to go for it, but Delight, he's playing Alistair in Arel. He's just marking him the whole way as Owner. Gonna keep his verdict to really no avail, like nothing happens. And it's another Chemtech Soul.
Yeah, another one. So ultimately, T1, I guess they just knew. They just knew. You can have this one. It's not gonna matter in the end, and Faker's gonna get plate gold in mid. They absolutely did not know, but this will work out pretty decently for them. It's a kind of trade of fire and mountain here. Infernal versus the Mountain Drake's going to kind of neutralize each other to a certain extent here in these compositions. And at the end of the day, you know, with Chemtech Soul here, we're not going to be looking at the Dragon Pit that much anymore. You know, a few more of those T1 moments where they just let it go. Faker's has put so much pressure on mid, he actually forced Chovy to lose 2 waves. And as you mentioned, he just had such a great sense of how to put that pressure on mid and really put a timer on Gen.G.
Here's Peanut, but yeah, Zaya's just going to read the play at the end of the day. Or is he? He's just going to face check instead into Gen.G. Now, there's not a lot of damage between these two as the ult comes out from Zeus and Owner's trying to help out, but he gets knocked away as the double Q3 does come in from the Cassandra, but Counter-Strike is up again as Paige makes his way in and collects the kill as it was 4-on-1 at the very end.
Well, this is pretty huge for Gen.G, and I really like the way they use the CC there, making sure they get the maximum duration of each and every one of those to stop the Jax from getting out of there. Counter-Strike pretty strong, but not strong enough. Tries to turn on to Paze in the end in desperation, but didn't have flash there either. So ultimately is going to get taken out. Paze picks up some additional gold. He's got 350 from plates and is going to be taking out this turret here. Looks like first of the game will go to Gen.G. And he needs another wave to get the last part, so maybe not actually.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to group up for this one. RT1 looks like they just barely going to get it here ahead of the side of Gen.G. Some waves being lost in a big way in top and bot, though, from T1. So still a very even game. Like, look at the gold. It just matched up equally at that exact moment. So Gen.G certainly back in this one. And I don't know. I mean, this could go really any way from here.
I mean, this is exactly what we expected from this game when we saw the drafts. Just such a close game we're probably going to have. And with Chemtech Soul, I think it's going to continue to be that way. As Zeus gets caught here, the timing of this ult from Peanut as well to root him into place is really good. And then they see the rotation over of Owner, and they're like, we can get more out of this if they try to continue to fight. Paze gets the kill as Zeus tries to jump onto him and knows he's dead and allows Owner to get away. But yeah, I mean, it's a very close game here. Just a few hundred gold between these two now, and I mean, looking at where the gold is too, you know, it's Arel who picks it up for T1 in that last play, but Paze is the one who got the gold on that last game. So more valuable gold here to Gen.G despite a slight gold deficit.
The Aphelios gank, too strong in the top side.
Gen.G, they also got so much money out of those turrets. They deleted minions. Map played pretty good from them in this last game.
Okay, we have a little bit of a setup in mid, but nothing really doing at this point. Might just be a little bit of a slow mid game once again, especially because of that Chemtech Soul. I mean, Chovy's just parked himself in the bottom side. Looks like Keria wants to try to get Zeus ahead. As let's see how this one does go, but the ult is buffered. Chovy gets out, and he will be okay. And now that means that Gen.G seeing Keria down there can threaten here on the second Rift Herald.
But, I mean, getting the Yone ultimate here as well as pushing him away, it feels really nice to grab a turret and get some additional gold for the Jax. So the mission to get Jax money is a success, even if it isn't a kill onto Chovy. We'll also get his teleport as he comes to your top side to deal with Faker's push. It will be able to get the Rift Herald, as you were mentioning, but it is a successful gank there by Keria. And that's going to be the trade-off here as this game just continues to be so insanely close. But T1 pulling ahead now further in gold with that kill of the bottom side turret.
His two top laners vying for a chance at the blue buff. Looks like Zeus will just take that down. Actually, very nice for a Jax to have that. And yeah, I feel like he'll be able to do a little bit more on blue side down in that bottom lane where he does 1-2 split push. We'll see, though, how much value he'll be able to get. He's not going to be 4-0 in this game, as he is currently 0-1. The Jax still eventually, as long as the game doesn't get too out of hand, should have a lot of power as this game comes along, but we'll just have to wait and see how this mid-game goes.
Playing Jackson to Maokai as well is kind of tough in terms of side laning because it's really easy for the Maokai to impact those sides from a very far distance away. So it is going to be a threat, but it's not going to necessarily be very soon here with the state of his KDA, as you mentioned, the lack of items. But it's only 18 minutes in. This next Drake fight is kind of an awkward one because neither team wants to toss your chance at Worlds away for a Chemtech Dragon, you know? As it is just going to be a slow setup here. And
hey, do you think Chovy's going to build Even Shroud again?
I hope not. I don't think it makes sense in this case.
Yeah, I don't think it's the way, but, you know, it'll make him tanky. There's still triple threat here on the side of T1. Let's see what he decides to do. Maybe it's Sunfire this time. As Gen Z and T1, they are throwing it down for a Chemtech Drake.
Okay.
It is happening.
Hayes got to be watching that position. He's got red-white here. Chovy coming in for flash engage potentially.
Well, that's the Poppy Copter, not going to hit anyone as Zeus is marked. They're just trying to turn onto him. They don't care about the Drake. They just want to take down the Jax. As Doran is in there, he just dies for free. Both top laners. As now Peanut just going to run in and take a look at that. The health bar of Owner just going to be zapped away. It's a huge effort divide from Faker, but I don't think it's enough as he's going to get away, but the rest of the team is not. And in fact, Faker will not get away as Gen G are going to ace T1 on the Chemtech Dragon.
5,100 damage on the Aphelios. Really shutting down the doubters on this one. He had red-white at the beginning of the fight. Positioning was good, and Zeus dies, trying to assassinate him in the backline, goes in deep, has no follow-up damage. It's not a AP Kaisa game where you can just poke your way into these objectives. You have to follow up. You have to get on top of that Aphelios. They did not, and he just runs the team fight all on his own. Now he's got 2 items set up here. The Gale Force already ready for this one, and man, the lead was pretty decent for T1 before this, but now 3,000 gold the advantage for Genji. As look at FaZe's positioning. Poppy Copter here, not great. Zeus goes in by himself. Where's the follow-up? There's no follow-up. Doran's locking the rest of the team down. Guma's autoing here at the back line, so Zeus just dies instantly. And yes, Doran will die, but he does a lot more here to buy space for this Aphelios. Full health, red-white. Look at him go. He's Gale Forcing on Guma. He's flashing the wall. Rookie of the Year says, I'm going to the finals again. I got MVP last time. And this man is just out of control. And it's always the positioning, Valdez. The positioning of this man. No vision, doesn't care.
I mean, there's nothing else to say. I mean, just wait for the perfect moment. Yeah, and there it is, the Calibrum Q to finish it off.
알리 방금 미쳤는데?
Alistair is crazy.
Oh man, they're really feeling it in this 5th game.
The light's getting so hype, man. I love the energy. It's great. Even Shroud, by the way, finished.
Yeah, he did go for it with all the money he picked up from that last fight. And, you know, I mean, if FaZe is going to be this big, if he's going to do this much, who can blame him?
Yeah,
and,
I mean, if you just remove every single threat, like the Jax goes away and everybody else is held down by Maokai Ultimate and Delight groups up 3 to knock them all up for FaZe to knock them down, you're not going to lose. You're not going to lose if your team can do that. I can tell you that right now.
The Light's locking the door here. Guma's on a flank, but
it's going to knock away Owner, but the damage here on the Baron a little bit slow, but the Maokai Ultimate might be enough. He's texting in. Owner is not going to get it. He won't be able to steal it. The Counter-Strike hits 5, but it's still going to be 5 members of Gen G that are taking the fight as Owner's low. Down goes Faker, and FaZe is taking names once again. As Zeus, it looks like he's dead as well. Doran just going to make an end of him, as that is another ace to the side of Gen G.
Oh man, Gen G, they got on the Baron, they had good positioning, and they wanted to go in and hard force that T1, but you're running into a Maokai, you're running into Yone. The turn is amazing for Gen G. You opted into this. You could have just said, well, they get Baron, it's a really tough situation, but, you know, maybe we can win the game. Maybe the Nexus won't fall, you know, if we actually win another team fight later on. Maybe we can actually make this happen with a miracle fight or a good counter-strike in a subsequent fight. But this fight, it just felt like was never, ever going to work for T1, even with the setup that Faker was looking for there with the Emperor's Divide, with Rel Magnet Storm and a counter-strike. The follow-up is just insane from Chovy as he turns here through the Maokai ultimate. And Delight's already got this fight disjointed. And by the time you have to go in here as T1, it's too late. I mean, the Magnet Storm from Keria hits everybody, and there's a decent amount of damage coming through from Zayas, but it's still a Kaisa comp, and you don't have enough damage at this stage when you're behind to actually follow up on those big engages, and the turnaround with Peanut, with Chovy is enough, and once again, Pays just does massive damage before he goes down, picks up a double, and that is going to be the Baron, 11
Yes,
kills
GA.
to 3. GA at 22 minutes, yeah.
And a crit cloak, just as a bonus, you know, like
One control ward as well.
Sure, you gotta up that vision score. He's done everything else.
Control wards are just a flex at this point.
Yeah.
You put them in the inventory to show your opponents how ahead you are.
You need the extra for the item value graph.
There you
like,
go.
A little bit, that extra 0.1 to get ahead of your opponent.
What's he holding? That's right, 32, because he spent all that money.
Yeah.
And Genji in such a good position here in this final game. I mean, it's going to take a miracle for T1 to come back now.
Yeah, especially because, like you very nicely highlighted it, like the Baron fight was very forced. Like Genji ran away with this game, and they ran away with it fast because T1 went for a very desperate re-engage. They said, well, if we lose Baron, we're going to lose. So they went in and lost the fight anyway, right? They weren't ready to fight, and they definitely were not set up for it. So now the Baron power play is massive for Genji. They're 6,000 ahead, and they want more than 6,000, Wolf. They want Worlds.
They want
the
Worlds.
LCK Finals.
And they may just be getting it, Valdez. I mean, at this point, it is just hard to imagine a world where they don't walk out the victors of this one. Pushing now this bottom inhibitor.
Bit of damage coming in onto Doran. He's going pretty deep for this one. Don't necessarily have to do that. The Space is like, man, I just want to hit the inhibitor. Please just, just calm down. Like, just let me hit this objective. Thank you. And that he will. But the Poppycopter comes out, and they will, in fact, deny the inhibitor from going down for now.
Yeah.
Although
Baron wears off, but they have
there it
enough.
is.
Yeah, they have enough.
파괴되었습니다.
Valdez, it is now Genji with a 6,000 gold lead, as you mentioned, 6,500 really here at the end of this when you put all the calculations in. Faker finally gets a second item, and that Baron fight, you know, if they had 2 items on the Azir before, maybe. If you had a little bit more layered damage, if there was some sort of AoE, like a Rumble or something on top of an engage like that, you know, maybe you win those fights, right? In the choke point, Keria, he goes in, it's a big Magnet Storm. They're just so desperate and so confident, it seems, that they could actually still win this fight. But it's just one of those fights that T1 fans are going to be seeing in their nightmares, even if they somehow miraculously win this one, because it was so hard forced, and everything about this game was so good until that moment, you know?
Yeah, also, it's just glory days for PaYS fans, right? We were like waiting throughout this entire playoffs, even against LAP Sports. We're like, man, you know, I thought PaYS, like, Rookie of the Year, this guy's so good. He's not showing his true self, and finally it pays off. And you know what? Like, the rest of the team is enabling him in a great way, but he's right there to smack it down and really bring it home. So picks out the Aphelios for Game 5. You know, I wasn't a believer until I saw that one team fight, and I'm like, okay. Also played it in Game 1. Gonna look to get 2 wins on it tonight. Now, the game isn't over, but it's pretty PaYS controlled and Genji controlled right now, let's say.
Yeah, the bottom inhibitor is the one that's down. That'll allow Cryo here and an extra push on the opposite side of the map for the Baron for Genji. So that's really frustrating for T1 that bot inhib is the one that Genji wisely selected to push down to make sure they can set up for another Baron fight win. And at least if T1 get that same sort of combo this time around, they'll have a little bit more damage to follow up with it if they do end up opting into that type of fight, obviously. And, you know, there's no real teleport to end situation here for Genji. Like, they're running a Cassante. I mean, Yone can do a decent amount of damage to structures quickly, but it's not like T1 are like, oh man, if we let that push, they just teleport and kill us. It's not that type of situation. The Jax is on your side, but it still just feels so dire here.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And this Chovy Even Shroud, we talked about it in Game 4 and how it could be great for the team, like really just allow everybody to do extra damage. Now it feels really smart. In Game 4, we were like, not sure. In this one, it's like, well, you got a massively fed Aphelios, and it's PaYS, right? So just kind of get in there. Also gives you the extra resistances on all the legendary items. So you're really tanky. You're doing a lot of damage. You have nice amount of lifesteal. You can always go in to enable the rest of your team. And we also got Pays almost about to hit his LDR. Like, it's pretty insane. As Zeus here, 0-3, he's really trying to bring this game back somehow.
He has TP.
Okay, carry. Uh-oh. That's not going to be blocked by the Poppy. He does get stunned up there towards the end. And unfortunately, the follow-up a little bit slow from the side of Gen G, but this Baron still up and available.
Feels pretty decent for T1, though, that they get the Yone ult out before this happens. And, you know, Zeus pushed the bottom wave so far that it's not really going to be threatening anything. He can actually just walk towards the Baron now. And Toby has this choke point controlled here. Look at the lack of vision for T1. Walking into this one is way easier said than done. You just have no real entry point here. Zeus is going to try to set up that flank. He's over on blue.
Mega Cone from Toby. He's like, hello. All the way from blue buff.
Yeah. But they haven't started the Baron yet. T1 get one more fight. They get one more shot at this.
Yeah. Peanut holding the choke. Just trying to make sure they do not get entry. And you could potentially burn down the Baron even without Pays. But if Pays is there, your damage to Baron is like threefold, right? So if Pays is ever on vision, probably not going to have Gen G doing that Baron. But the second Pays goes off vision, T1 begin to push in. They begin to question. And they have a big bottom lane problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is starting to stack up now. Like, Zeus did his due diligence to push it out earlier, but I love how Gen G just delay. They let the minions do the work. They let the minions do the work. Toby going to teleport back in here with level 16. His ult's back as well. Good luck, T1. One more fight.
Oh, they're going to catch Owner. He's over there on the right side, but he is Poppy. Is it going to matter? As he's so low, and the damage is just insane. But Zeus finds the angle on the Toby in the backline, gets the GA. Finally, Faker goes in, but I'm not sure if that's the angle. Counter-Strike is huge. Zeus is desperate, but he will not have it in this game. And they have a wave in bot, and Gen G, they just booked their tickets to the finals.
That is absolutely right, Valdez. One more fight. One more fight for T1, but it's not enough. It doesn't come together. And even with the leap onto Pays, he has GA. He pops back up, and they try to kill him a second time, but they will not. And as you say, Gen G are going to be the team to advance to the finals first here against their old nemesis, T1.
Yes, it looks like it, although the inhibitor is going to respawn and is going to delay things just a little bit. Gen G will continue on this path, though. They will take down the Nexus. It looks like it's Keria and Owner. They are so desperate as Gen G. Oh, here comes Guma, gonna take out Pace. Doesn't matter. Gen G, they're going to the finals, and they have booked their ticket to Worlds.
They certainly have. And look at Score. He is so happy for this roster. It was an up and down series. But once again, Gen G come out on top. They weren't able to take first seed going into playoffs. They were robbed, and Bro said, no, I'm taking you out one last time. Then Gen G show up in playoffs here. A bit of a shaky start to the middle of this series, but then bounce back hard in that fourth game. Delight shows up, and in the fifth game, the player we were most worried about all series long, Pays. He says, I'm playing Aphelios again, and we are going to Worlds. They qualify to two major events here with this monumental fifth game win here. And T1's hype train, at least in the upper part of the bracket, is going to end tonight. They will still have a chance to go to the finals against the winner of Hanwha Life versus KT Rolster, but they're not going there directly.
Absolutely. Gen G, like we mentioned so many times, there's so much to gain by winning this one. It's not a finals, but it gets you directly to the finals. It gets you directly into Worlds. You just feel so comfortable. There's a lot more to focus on in the future now, and that's going to only breed confidence within the team. So a massive victory for them. They were definitely the favorites coming into this one. Shout out to T1 for challenging them, but Gen G deserve the win tonight, and they'll even get the thumbs up from Toby.
They certainly will. Reluctant thumbs up, but he played very well, especially in that fourth game on the Yone. And Pays, he came up big when it mattered most on that final game, and we saw the Aphelios pick. We knew it was risky, but he and Delight, they delivered, Valdez.
Yeah.
And if you're a Gen G fan, it's just another one of those proofs that this team is top tier. Like, they might get the back-to-back. Like, 3 LCK titles in a row is what is on the line for this team if they win just one more best of 5. That is not something we have been able to say for a long time here in the LCK, and no matter what, no matter what happens in regular season, even if they're number 2 to T1, even if they're number 2 to KT Rolster, when it matters most in best of fives, even when momentum is against them, this team will and can and will get it done, Valdez.
Yeah, absolutely. They're rewriting their story, right? They've sat in that second seed for a long time, but now they're the ones to be feared, and they are absolutely the favorites going into that final, no doubt, after the best of fives we have seen so far. As we're going to go over these highlights just a bit, you get to see all the glory. And remember earlier on in the series as well, like Guba and Keria just getting a huge bot diff in the 2v2, and then finally in game 5, like look at this from Delight, like insane. And Pays set up entirely, just perfect positioning. They come together and they get the job done, the two of them.
Yeah. Final Calibrum to take Owner out in this moment as well. It's just fireworks here. This was the moment where T1, unfortunately, are very zoned out. Faker can't do the damage here because he's caught by the end of Peanut's ultimate and is kind of pushed out to the side. And then the turnaround here is just so easy with Yone. And Pays, he dies, but he did about all the damage that it's possible to do with Felios at this stage of the game before doing so.
Yeah. He squeezed all the juice out of that orange, that's for sure.
And then Owner here trying to set up for something on the edge is just completely destroyed. Keria.
Delight is so good. Like, this guy is just insane. Like, Owner didn't have the best positioning there, but I just mean overall, like in this series, and especially in the latter half of the series. Started off a little sleepy tonight, to be honest, but that's all you need to hear.
That's all you need to hear. That is all you need to hear. That's all you need to know. This team has worked so hard this year, and they will be rewarded. And they may just lift the trophy again, back to back to back. You can't write even fan fiction as interesting as the storylines we've had here in the LCK over these last few years. And it's just once again going to continue to be potentially the reign of Gen G. Only time will tell. And hey, T1, they win that matchup against KT or Hanwha, they might get their chance at revenge.
Yeah.
Who knows?
You know, they did the work against KT. They get a chance as the final nice from the team. Especially Delight, who was just hyped out of his mind. And understandably, I mean, he had the... I'd say the game 3, 4, 5 of his life. Game 1 and 2, not so much, but it's okay. You know, we're not all perfect. They get across the line.
The most important win...
deserve to.
Yeah, the most important win to take is the third one in a best of 5. And you know what? That's the one you get excited for.
So guys, very special thing for today. For the first time on the space, we will have Peanut for an English interview. So make sure you guys are staying tuned for that. It's going to be really fun. We got Huni there as well to help out just in case. And just going to get to hear Peanut's thoughts directly with our questions. So that's just really, really awesome. And guys, we are done here on the caster desk. Hope you guys did enjoy the winner's match. But now let's go over to the space.
Thank you so much, Valdez, and Wolf for the amazing teaser of the upcoming interview. I'm really, really hyped about this, but not as hyped as I was during this series, guys. Chronicler, congratulations on taking yet again a good prediction. Huni, we just sucked this week, but that's just how it is, I guess.
You know, sometimes it is what it is.
I think this is my first correct prediction, actually.
Is it? Oh no, okay.
Yeah, because I don't think I got any other one right. So this one though, I really happy that the series delivered. I think this one was close up until the point that that the Baron was actually taken. Crazy game. The fact that Gen G is just like, yeah, we'll go back to Felios, I guess.
Back to basic. Back to basic. Look, and it's a...
Look at this.
You know, back to basic at the same time. I think the Maokai with the Yone, the combination with the mid jungle, like, it doesn't fall off until actually just game's end. Like, as soon as it's the same thing what happened in the game 4. Like, as soon as you get the lead becomes unstoppable. The snowball becomes way too big. It's just one shot in the T1.
And I do think that this is a really good example of both teams actually getting insane power level drafts. I think the T1 comp still has a really strong 2v2 and 3v3, right, towards the top side of the map. Great engage for Keria. The strongest AD carry at the moment in the meta, even though we have seen the Kai'Sa drop a little bit. The Poppy Azir combo. So I do think it was really down to play. Both teams, I think, got a lot of what they wanted. And then in the end, I think it came down to just the team fighting power, specifically of Delight. Like, I think that That man had back-to-back POG performances.
Honestly, yeah, he's the player of the series for me, if we had to have one. We'll talk about this a bit later, but first things first, let's focus on the 18-minute Drake fight. And guys, I want you to talk to me about the approach of both teams and what was the decisive factor for this team fight.
Well, I mean, I think that Zeus, it makes sense to approach the other side of the angle, but you have to see, like, this is like too early. Like, Drake wasn't like that low, and Maokai ulti, it makes it be able to, for Daylight, be able to just 3-man Q, knock up into the huge pace.
Yeah, and you can see the confidence that Pace has on this pick. I also want to highlight, it felt to me like T1 was a little split in the cold there, because that was still 4 versus 4, right? But you saw that one member peeled off into the Dragon Pit, the other 2 peeled back. So as a result, it was really easy for Genji to just isolate the target, take them down. And I think that if T1 make a slightly different move, this game could look completely differently, right? I think that this was the one moment in the game that really started turning it in Genji's favor, and then not 3 minutes later, the game was done.
And yeah, the Baron, actually, that's what it comes down to every time. When it comes to composition like this, I think it makes sense. So let's take a look at the Baron fight, if we have it, shall we? Because, guys, as we said, that was the last nail in T1's coffin for this one.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, games like already was two-way to one-sided. They got aced, and this is like 3 minutes after they got aced, like right away in 21 minutes. And Genji's incredibly well. They're playing how they around the team fight as a team competition. Like, they just have a clear the plan. Like, they have a pace, even though he kind of died, but doesn't matter. Put so much damage on it. And Kazante with the Yone just be able to put like consistent damage. So in a melee fight, with the team fight, it doesn't fall off.
I also think that what we saw there was one of the reasons why the Kai'Sa has like been banned more, and even outside of that been somewhat dropping in priority. If it's a Xayah there, I think you can actually impact that team fight. We saw that Guma wasn't actually able to do anything. Xayah is, or Kai'Sa rather, is a lot more item reliant, doesn't provide any CC, right? The way that that Xayah does, or some threat with the ultimate. And then, you know, the game continued, but it was over. It was done.
Almost said it.
Yeah, because, well, I mean, from that point on, you have an incredible teamfight composition with a fat 80 carry.
And way too many tools.
Yeah.
To engage, disengage, and that's what made Genji better, I think, at the end of the day. Let's take a look at the results. And I want you guys to reflect on the series, what we learned from the teams. How strong is Genji looking also leading into their, yet again, another final?
I mean, I'm going to say the same thing. Like, the quality of the game, the quality of the League of Legends and throughout the series, it was getting better and better and better. I didn't really feel like the early of the like game 1, game 2, like those kind of game was like, it wasn't like that entertaining. But the thing is, like, as soon as it hit game 3, game 4, game 5, it scaled so well. The game is like, it was so enjoyable. At the same time, like, I could easily see like player was able to concentrate it way harder.
You know how earlier today we had an interview with Tom and he was like, yeah, we need to make sure the players wake up. I don't think the players were waking up on time.
Oh,
I actually think it took them a little bit of time, and then once we got to normal LCK times, they were like, hey,
it's fine, we're playing, guys.
We're playing well.
Not
It's happening. I do really think that the games did become better. I think it also is just the nature of best of 5, that as players get more and more in tune, and start to really feel themselves, it started looking better and better.
And T1, you were talking about this during the game, Huni, actually. The experience that T1 gained with the amount of games that they've been playing during playoffs, I think, speaks for how strong they're going to be later when if they get the rematch also.
Yeah, I mean, we could easily see, like, from the DK series, like, there were wars, clearly. There were wars. They were competing against the KT. They actually managed to go game 5 and won. And also, they managed to go to the game 5 against Genji. And even though they kind of lost, it doesn't matter, because they get amount they get experience, amount they can get actually used on the stage. When Faker just come back, it's like, it's just at the week 9 of the regular season. It's just not even. It's not even only 2. It's only 2 weeks.
Yeah,
it's been.
Yeah.
And even that week, they didn't look comparable, right? They faced Kwangdong and T1. So I really want to give all the credit to T1 for the insane improvements, because coming into playoffs, it was KT Genji, huge gap, Humble Life, and everyone else. And now it's starting to look like it's KT, Genji, and T1. Like, I think T1 at this point, 100%. I don't know if they'll end up making it back to finals, right? I don't know if it'll be KT instead. I do think Halma still are pretty far behind. Although it is, you know, putting your faith in KT can be scary now that we've reached the playoffs.
Let's talk about this, right?
Okay, that's fine. We'll save it for tomorrow.
All right. Player of the game, though, which is something we should be focusing on here. Who got the player of the game in week 5? We talked about Delight, who had an amazing performance and an amazing series. It is his other bot laner Pace. And we've been talking about this over and over and over again. Do not let this kid play Aphelios, guys. Do not. He's too good.
What do you even say?
Look at this.
Like, and I do want to give credit again to Delight, but what for me is the kicker is not just that Pace had a really good Aphelios game, but also that he was able to have this game after he was the weak link on his team for 2 games in a row. Like, he was getting 2v2 killed with Delight often getting away, right? But like in the 2v2, getting taken down repeatedly, and then to come back and have a game this dominant, I think is really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, as
17.
Because the reason why that after game 3 over, we were nearly directly just tailing to Genji. You guys need a stabilizing bottom real bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's no good. You guys actually just almost lost the game, but it just turned around. Delight and Pace, both of them, just make the win the game.
And they did, and it worked. And they put pressure on bot lane way more than during the previous series, and it speaks to the fact that Genji yet again can carry from every side of the map. Chovy has his moments. Doran had some moments as well, but the bot lane in the end was the one shining the most here. Do you want to take a look at the predictions? I personally don't, but I think match result first. All right, let's look at the match result. We said it, 5 games, maybe not what I was expecting today. Honestly, it was hard to predict which way it would go and how many games we would have. After game 1, I was scared for T1, but yet again, both teams kept on ramping up throughout the series to offer us 5 amazing games.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I said it, I think until game 3, it was like T1 definitely had a momentum. Like at game 1 was like Genji kind of win at one-sided, but the thing is like T1 turn around, and it's like this is so impressive game that Genji make it turn around back, and it's like game 4, game 5, they managed to end the game. And it's so happy to see the Chovy bring it back to Yone, the champion that like we weren't sure because like HLE brought out it, and it's like it was a kind of question markable, but Chovy, he proved himself.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I also think it again speaks testament to the reason why we keep seeing this matchup. As I don't know if we're going to cut to predictions when it cut to you.
I'm so sad, man. I don't want to look at predictions again. All right, production is forcing me. Let's take a look at predictions then. And praise Chronicler, who
I was the Atlas as well. Jonas Strong,
yeah.
Oaks, but I'm the only one that gets to wear the hat because I'm here.
Who else on the Korean side was?
Yeah, I mean, like I think the predictions actually were a pretty good representation of how this series went, which I think is always cool, right? And obviously it's always really cool to be like, oh, like with the KT series, everyone like, oh, of course T1. No, T1 wasn't. It was a huge upset, and taken away from that, I think, is a shame. I love when a series delivers what we expect. A lot of us voted 3-2, right?
Yeah.
Went for a close series. There was not a single 3-0 prediction, and it was a close series in the end.
I mean, it makes sense. Like, as we predicted, the game was like really challenged and competed, and was really fun to watch, honestly.
Yeah, I hope we can get some rematch. I mean, we know this matchup by heart, honestly. We know that we're going to get a rematch of Genji T1. Eventually is what I mean as one of the hypest matchups we have in the LCK right now. They advanced to Worlds. They are the first LCK team to make it to Worlds. Unsurprisingly, though, like I think at the beginning of the split, if we had to bet on one team who was going to qualify for Worlds, for sure it should be Genji.
Yeah, 100%. This team, and I as a Genji enjoyer, I dread when internationals roll around because, you know, they only make semis or like 4th place, which is horrible, of course, unacceptable, just making it that far. But more importantly, I do think that Genji is a team where you can rely on them to be hitting a very consistent baseline ever since they got this core, and this summer has been no different.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, a player perspective, like, I think just they're guaranteed already 2nd seed for Worlds, and also just, you know, already basic. So it's gonna be great for them.
As we are waiting for Peanut to arrive for the interview, I want to play, not again, but I want to have a discussion with you guys at the space and also you guys in the chat. And the first questions I will have is, we talked about the fact that we have the same team, similar bracket as in spring, but do they all look stronger? Would you say?
I don't know if
Debates.
I don't know if they're stronger. It's really hard to rate because I do think across different metas you can have very different reads, right? Because as a reminder, during last spring we were at kind of the end of the AD carry support meta, and we went towards the protect the AD carry like Aphelios Jinx handshake meta. And I think those games always look a lot more controlled. I do feel the games right now are still pretty messy, but I think that it is something that's shared in regions across